3 minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Live from the Play Show, yet not overly ostentatious studios of CBS Sports Radio here in beautiful New York City, sitting on top of the 10th floor of 345 Hudson Street. Welcome on in to another week and a Monday edition of the Zach Gelb Show across all of our great local CBS Sports Radio affiliates, Sirius XM, Channel 158, the free Odyssey app, and of course, streaming on YouTube. 855-212-4CBS number to jump on in, 855-212-4227. You can always get at me on Instagram, where I'm straight flexing, or via the good old cesspool of Twitter, at Zach Gelb. That's ZACHGELB. Got Stuart Kovacs and Michael Samter here with us, and a whole lot cooking as we take you all the way up until 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. We will have the Pro Football Hall of Famer and the NFL's all-time leading rusher, Emmitt Smith, stopping by the CBS Sports Radio studios 20 minutes from now. Okay, let's start off the show with this. And I remember saying this on Friday, where I was asking our Ask the Pros question, who are some teams that have no shot to win this weekend? And I said, there's no way that the New York Jets are going to defeat the Philadelphia Eagles. I also said that there is no way with Deshaun Watson being out for the Cleveland Browns that the Cleveland Browns would defeat the San Francisco 49ers. And then the third team I gave you was the New York Giants without Daniel Jones, and it didn't look like, right, Saquon Barkley was going to play, and he ended up playing, but there was no way that the Giants were going to find a way to defeat the Buffalo Bills. And two of those three things happened where we got to see the San Francisco 49ers go down, the Philadelphia Eagles go down, the final two remaining teams in the NFL, and right down at the 1 yard line, the Giants almost walked into Buffalo with Tyrod Taylor and upset the Buffalo Bills. And that's why the NFL is the best, because that was an underwhelming week of football going into the weekend where you're like, oh, we don't have a lot of marquee games. We don't have a lot of great games. And it ended up being an unpredictable and just a crazy amount of good games in the NFL yesterday. And when we get to the NFC, my biggest statement from over the weekend is that the Detroit Lions are a bona fide Super Bowl contender. And you look at Philadelphia, they go down, they're still going to be there right at the end. The San Francisco 49ers, they go down even though Christian McCaffrey got hurt, Trent Williams got hurt, Deebo Samuel got hurt. They'll find a way to regroup. They'll be there right at the end. And all year long in the offseason, it was, okay, Philadelphia, San Francisco, the two best teams in the NFC. Is there going to be a third team that emerges? Seattle's in that conversation. The Cowboys in that conversation. And then everyone looked at the Detroit Lions and they were like, all right, they're going to be good, but are they going to be a threat? Because you looked at that division, everyone was saying Minnesota was going to regress. You didn't know what to expect out of the Bears and also the Green Bay Packers. And through the first 6 weeks of the season, the Detroit Lions may be the most impressive team in football because they sit at 5-1, and their only loss was in overtime to the Seattle Seahawks. And you see this team right now, Jared Goff's a good quarterback. And I think people need to start saying Jared Goff is a good quarterback. He got to a Super Bowl with the Rams. I know he was inconsistent, but when he got traded to the Detroit Lions, that was a throw-in. No one ever expected Jared Goff to be their long-term starting quarterback, and that's what he put himself in position to be for the Detroit Lions. And they have a top 10 wide receiver in Amon-Ra St. Brown. Jamison Williams made a big play yesterday. He's now back from the gambling suspension. But the biggest thing that the Detroit Lions have now is an actual defense. And we saw that defense with Aaron Glenn, who's probably going to be a head coach one day, improve down the stretch last year. And that is now carried over into this season, where you have Aiden Hutchinson, who's a star and should have been the number one overall pick. The Jags got that one wrong, selecting Trayvon Walker. And every week, you look at the box score, Alex Anzalone, I know he has luscious locks, but he also always leads the Lions in tackles, it feels like. And he did that once again yesterday. So this Lions team is a force. This Lions team is a well-rounded team. And this team is one of the top three teams in the NFC, and they have a chance to go to a Super Bowl. I know they haven't won their division since 1993. That's already over. That's a lock. They've won the division. And they haven't won a playoff game since 1991. But now we could start to realistically think about the Lions not only winning a playoff game, but winning multiple playoff games. And it's not crazy to say that this team could represent the NFC in a Super Bowl because they don't have flaws and they believe in their head coach in Dan Campbell. And that's such a big thing. When you hire a coach and when you have an organization that's just marinated in so many pessimistic views because they have been the lovable loser for so many years and they've been down and out and there's just no hope, you have to bring in someone that is a little zany. You have to bring in someone that is different and someone that could uproot and change the entire culture. And when Dan Campbell was hired, it was like, he even made the joke. A lot of people thought this was going to be Matt Campbell, the Iowa State coach, who now stinks as a head football coach. And a lot of people are like, who? Dan Campbell is the guy? And you see his press conference and he's talking about biting off kneecaps and you're like, oh, this guy's probably more positioned to be a college coach than an NFL coach. But he has formed the identity of the Detroit Lions through his personality. And look how many good players they have. From Penei Sewell to Jared Goff to Amara St. Brown, Sam Laporta, Aiden Hutchinson, Alex Anzalone, and we could go on and on and on. And Detroit Lions fans, for the first time in a long time, can actually dream big and can actually look forward to a football season. And if you're just saying, oh, Zach, it's 6 weeks in. Zach, they're 5-1. Like, pump the brakes a little bit before you start talking Super Bowl. This team's going to win 12 or 13 games bare minimum. These are some of the cupcakes they still have on their schedule. The Raiders. They haven't even played the Bears yet. They play them twice in division. They still have Green Bay one more time. They already kicked the crap out of the Packers. They still play the pathetic Denver Broncos. And you also have the Minnesota Vikings 2 more times. So you look at this team, if the Detroit Lions at this rate don't get 12 or 13 wins and maybe even north of that, this is going to be a big disappointment. And I look around the NFC and I look at the teams. Sure, Philadelphia and the 49ers, I'm not going to get bent out of shape out of yesterday. Absolutely, that's a bad loss for the Eagles. Jalen Hurts threw the game away. That's a bad loss for the 49ers. You lose to a college buddy of mine in P.J. Walker. And your kicker, your rookie kicker that you drafted very early on, can't hit a chip shot field goal even in the bad weather conditions in the dog pound. And Brock Purdy, we could put to bed all this MVP chatter for Brock Purdy. And I kept on telling you, system quarterback that one day could turn into a franchise quarterback. But notice when Christian McCaffrey goes down, when Deebo Samuel goes down, when Trent Williams gets banged up, and you go up against a great defense in the Cleveland Browns, and let's credit the Browns defense. I know everyone's going to only talk about the 49ers losing, but let's give Cleveland some credit. Brock Purdy doesn't look like he's Superman anymore. And he finally did have a hole in his cape. But you see those two teams, the Eagles and 49ers are still 2 of the more well-rounded teams in football. They're going to be right there at the end. But it's not as if in the NFC and in all entirety, the NFL, that there aren't some teams that have been lurking. There aren't some teams that we had questions about how good they could be heading into this season. And they could take the baton, and run with it potentially all the way to Las Vegas to the Super Bowl. And that Dan Campbell team with the Detroit Lions is more than capable of getting to a Super Bowl this year. And we could talk about how loaded they are on both sides of the ball, as we discussed in the first 10 minutes. But here's the thing I love about this team. There's kind of like a naive factor to them. There's kind of that underdog factor to them. And also, they have no pressure. If you just look at the NFC, and if you poll any Tom, Dick, and Harry right now, who's going to the Super Bowl, they're going to say 2 teams, Eagles or 49ers. Those are the only 2 teams that people will say. So the Lions can go into a game potentially in Philadelphia or at Santa Clara up against the San Francisco 49ers in a playoff game. And we know, unless you are an Eagles or 49ers fan, the entire world's going to be rooting for the Detroit Lions. And the Lions could walk into a playoff game against the 2 elite teams in the NFL, 2 elite teams in the NFC, and there's no sweat off their back if they lose this game. And there's no pressure on them. And it's not crazy to say when you look at the schedules, because the 49ers have some tough games. The Eagles have a brutal stretch of games coming up for them, that there's a chance the Lions could be the number 1 seed in the NFC. Like, that's not crazy to say right now. And you have 3 teams through 6 weeks that are 5-1 in the NFC. You knew the Eagles would be there before the year. You knew the 49ers would be there before the year. And I'll raise my hand and I'll say I was a doubter of Detroit. I thought Detroit would be good, but it did scare me, and I was extremely apprehensive this offseason when everyone's picking Detroit and everyone's talking up Detroit. And I could see why. But I wondered, were they just a good team? Were they just a solid team? And would the expectations be too big and too large that maybe they would falter and maybe they would fall? But this team, through the first 6 weeks, have opened up a can of whoop ass, and they've sent the message to the NFL that they're a dominant football team. And they're a team that has everything in front of them. They're a team that is dangerous, and they are a team, and I can't believe I'm saying this, that they're more than capable of going to a Super Bowl this year. They are a Super Bowl contender. Forget the Cowboys. Like, brush them aside. But you look at the Eagles and 49ers who just lost yesterday, those are bad losses. When you lose to the Jets, when you lose to the Browns, especially with the Jets not having Sauce Gardner, not having DJ Reed. We know Aaron Rodgers is, I think, done for the season, even though he was warming up yesterday. And for the Cleveland Browns, they didn't have Deshaun Watson. The 49ers lost to them. The Lions' one loss is up against a good team in the Seattle Seahawks, and it took overtime to knock the Lions out. It's kind of remarkable. It is awesome. It is sensational what Dan Campbell, Brad Holmes, and the Detroit Lions have built. And here's the thing. Their first-round draft pick is banged up right now in Jahmyr Gibbs. They could get him back, and maybe he could bring another explosive factor to that offense. Because we know they're built in a mean way in the trenches. We know they have two explosive players on the offensive side of the ball in Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jamison Williams. You know Laporta's been a big tight end, and he's been a freak for them. No one's missing TJ Hawkinson there anymore in Detroit. And you could go get an electric back in Jahmyr Gibbs to complement David Montgomery, who I know is dealing with an injury. But I'll tell you, you knew that offense was going to be good heading into this season. I didn't know that this defense could be this good. And this Lions defense is damn good. And the schedule matters. You look at this team, and I'll say it again. They are 5-1, and they still have to play the Raiders, the Bears twice, Green Bay, Denver, 2 with Minnesota. It is not far-fetched to suggest that the Lions can be the number 1 seed in the NFC, and there will be no pressure on them if they have to go up against San Francisco or Philadelphia in the playoffs. Because heading into this year, Lomas Brown, former Lions lineman, told me they have to win a playoff game. They haven't done that since 1991. But even if they are the number 1 seed and they're in an NFC title game against Philly or up against the 49ers, you know most of the nation will go, yeah, but it's the Lions. They'll find a way to mess it up. People be pulling for them, but all the pressure and all the expectation is on Philadelphia and the 49ers. And there's not a team in the league through the first 6 weeks that I've been more impressed by that was moving in the right direction and has taken it and has run with it than the Detroit Lions. And everything is possible for them heading into the rest of this season. Zach Gelb here with you on CBS Sports Radio. We'll take a break. When we come on back, big game tonight. We'll see if the Cowboys can bounce back and can the Chargers make a statement to conclude Week 6. It's the Cowboys and the Chargers, the man with the most rushing yards in the history of the NFL. He's a Pro Football Hall of Famer and a legendary Dallas Cowboy. Emmitt Smith's going to stop by the CBS Sports Radio studios next. Zach Gelb here with you on CBS Sports Radio, off and running on a very busy Monday edition of the program.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 3 minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Now back to the Zach Gelb Show.
All righty, we continue rocking and rolling on this Monday Zach Gelb Show, CBS Sports Radio. The Pro Football Hall of Famer is sitting to the right of me. He, of course, is Emmitt Smith, and he's here on behalf of Emergent to help raise awareness of Narcan nasal spray and the dangers of opioid overdose. Pro Football Hall of Famer Emmitt Smith, always great to see you. How you been?
I've been good, been busy, but good.
Well,
yeah.
we'll talk about nasal spray in just a bit, but I have to start you off with your Cowboys tonight because they're coming off that beatdown of the 49ers. They're going up against a Chargers team that has a lot of talent, but no one could really trust. Where's the confidence level of the great Emmitt Smith with the Cowboys heading into this one tonight?
Well, I mean, first and foremost, I'm a realist, and then I know that the first couple of games of the season, we played two teams that had very average quarterbacks at the time, and so we dominated them the way we were supposed to. I think last week against the Niners really revealed that we have a ways to go. We have to match that energy that the Niners came to the table with. And so tonight I'm hoping that we can rebound by matching that energy offensively and defensively, because our defense has played very spirited football all season long, which they've been doing for the last couple of years. And so offensively, we just need to raise our intensity level and eliminate some of the mistakes that we make.
When you look at Dak, and this is the question that we ask every year, but do you believe the Cowboys one day can win a Super Bowl with him as the quarterback?
I think we have an opportunity to. I really do. I think Dak is not quite has developed completely as a quarterback because the offense has changed. The offense is different than it was last year. So I can look at him as being a little green in this new offense and learning the nuances of this new offense. I don't think McCarthy's calling the same plays that Kellen Moore called last year. So it's a brand new offense, so it takes some time to adjust to it. Now, is he adjusting the way that everybody expects him to adjust? No. But the offense itself can evolve, can also be in a way that it utilizes the talent that's around him in a much more effective way than we're currently using it. I don't believe that the system itself is really creative enough to get Cook the ball, creative enough to make sure that Gallup is being able to get some catches, and most importantly, CeeDee Lamb is being utilized in such a way to where you create matchup issues for CeeDee Lamb to make plays. He's the most talented wide receiver we actually have. But to leave him in a box is not maximizing his talent. And relying on others at the time is not really helping them neither. So I think we just need to rethink about how we're approaching our offensive scheme.
You were on great Cowboys teams. You were on a standard where it was to win a Super Bowl. And when you haven't been in a Super Bowl or an NFC title game since that 1995 season, like I just look around the organization and I wonder, are they just stuck in that category of being good, not great? And then Dak's contract, and I think Dak's a good, not great quarterback, is up at the end of the 2024 season. I'm like, you just need to bring in a new quarterback and not extend him a year or two from now to try to elevate the rest of the franchise to change what has been disastrous for the last 20 years.
Well, disastrous. It's funny how people call making the playoff, losing the game, disastrous.
But for your standard, that's a credit to what you guys did.
Yeah, it is a credit to what we did, but that was in our past and where we're trying to get to right now. There's so many other teams that have yet to make the playoff. The Detroit Lions will be begging to get to the playoffs. So let's not talk about us being so disastrous. But we are the Dallas Cowboys, and the expectations are extremely high, which I do understand and I do appreciate. At the same time, I'm just saying from the standpoint where we sit, have we underachieved? Yes, we have. Can we be better? Yes, we can. Will we be better? That's remain to be seen. Is Dak the quarterback that can lead us? Who else out there is better than Dak Prescott right now that we can get?
Oh, that's
who else
so
out
put
there?
It this way.
Who else out
you
there?
You guys trade for Trey Lance. I don't think he's
who else
the
out
answer.
there is better?
What about some of these guys in the draft? I know it's a crapshoot.
It is a crapshoot. So why would you go with a crapshoot when you already got somebody that you can develop even further?
Let me throw this one out there. I just think because they're very similar players. Would you rather have Kirk Cousins or would you rather have Dak Prescott?
I'd rather have Dak Prescott.
Okay.
I'd rather have Dak Prescott because I think Dak Prescott leadership also is something that I appreciate. Now, can he get a little bit more intense? Yes, he can, but that's not his personality. But he's very vocal, he's a very communicative person, so he understands where he's at, and he's willing to work hard to even get there. And so I think what can happen is McCarthy can expand the offense and allow the offense not to be so systematic. That's what I'm talking about, having an offense that's so systematic to where you cannot get outside of it. And I think that's where guys are limited. I think that's where the offense is limited, and I think that's where the offense can become very predictable.
One more that gets thrown out there, too, is Kyler Murray. Would you rather have Kyler or Dak, assuming Kyler Murray gets back healthy?
Well, right now I got Dak. I'm not going to be looking at what ifs and all those kind of things. But, right now we have Dak Prescott, and I think he is the quarterback for us right now, and I think he will be the quarterback for us in the future. I just think that we just need to do things to help everybody. Because when you have an offense you have to ask yourself the question, what is the offense?
I have no clue.
You have no clue.
Put it this way. It's an offense that I trust the defense, but in a big spot against a really good team, I don't have confidence that the offense gets the job done.
And why? Because the offense has not told you who they are. They haven't shown you the ability to be a balanced offense at all. They haven't shown you the ability to be a straight passing offense. They haven't shown you anything outside of just an offense. And there's nothing flashy about our offense. There's nothing that's productive, really that productive about our offense. There's a lot productive about our defense. But offensively wise, we haven't really been a dominant running team. We haven't been a dominant passing team. We haven't even been a dominant passing team that can throw the ball down the field. So who are we and what are we? So until we get those questions answered, we're going to be exactly what you see right now. Mediocre, average at best, until we start to prove something differently. Now, offensive line-wise, the line got to come together. We have some young players and mixing it, matching here and there and all those kind of things because of injuries, but we need to come together. We need to commit to something. Until we commit to who we're going to be just like we are right now.
Talking to the Pro Football Hall of Famer and Emmitt Smith. So Austin Eckler expected to play tonight for the Chargers. Personally, he's my favorite running back in the league. I wonder who's your favorite running back these days in the NFL.
I really don't have one. Right now. Jonathan Jacobs just got back. Josh Jacobs out there in Oakland is doing well. He's just getting back, but they haven't ran him enough.
They don't use him the right way.
They don't use him.
McDaniel's another topic.
That's another topic.
When you're down at the 3-yard line a few weeks ago, let's throw the ball with Aiden O'Connell, who not give the ball to Josh Jacobs.
My point. So offensively, you're looking at systems, and these systems don't always dictate that the running back should get the ball. The systems are skewed towards the quarterback. I don't care if you're a backup quarterback, as sorry as some of these quarterbacks are, or if you are a starting running back that led the league in rushing last year, the system does not dictate that you should get the ball because the system itself is set up to pass. And that's just who the league is, and that's who the league and coaches and offensive coordinators think everybody is, passing quarterbacks. And everybody does not fit that mold.
What about the state of the running back position right now? That's always a big topic. We saw Jonathan Taylor just got paid, but a lot of these running backs, they're putting up big numbers, and they're not getting rewarded by the franchise.
They're not getting rewarded by the franchise because the franchise don't believe in the running game. Again, I'm going, do we believe in Tony Pollard enough to get him the ball 25 times a game or give him 25 touches? Do we believe in our running backs enough to where if Tony Pollard does not touch the ball 20 to 25 times a game, can we mix and match it with someone else back there that can, the combination of the two of them, can we leverage our running game to the point where we can come up with a bootleg or something like that and throw the ball, play action off of it? No, we have not done those things because teams and leagues have been so focused on making quarterbacks the marquee players in the National Football League when the game itself is a complete team sport. There aren't many Patrick Mahomes you're going to find in the National Football League. There aren't many Tom Brady's you're going to find in the National Football League. There aren't many Drew Breeses and Peyton Mannings and guys like that. Those guys are rarities, and you'll be lucky to get someone half the size or half the caliber of any of those players.
And it's crazy to me now because people say you don't need a bell cow back anymore because for the last 10 years, most of the teams that have won have gone by running back by committee. And I could understand then why owners look at it and they go, okay, we'll just get 3 or 4 guys in. But it's like you wouldn't want a Christian McCaffrey on your team. And you wouldn't want a Jonathan Taylor on your team. It's like, it's nonsense.
The only reason why you went to running back by committee is because of what Belichick was able to do with his system. Mm-hmm. Again, his system.
And the Chiefs have Mahomes.
And the Chiefs have Mahomes. They have Mahomes. But Belichick had Tom Brady.
Yep.
His system. And the Chiefs system. So you don't have a Mahomes in Dallas. You got a Dak Prescott that's efficient a quarterback enough to throw the ball 35 times a game, maybe 40, maybe. But you got a running game. You should have a running game that should balance that and create more opportunity for Gallups and everybody else to get down the field with play action if you run the ball effectively. If we believe in Tony Pollard that much to where we got rid of Zeke Elliott, well, damn it, use him.
Does it annoy you that Zeke's not playing for the Cowboys?
It does.
Why?
Why? Because I thought the 1-2 punch was awesome. And it does ignore me. It makes me hot that he's not a Dallas Cowboy right now.
So then what do you say to people that said, oh, well, Zeke lost a step. Zeke was slowing down. It was the right move to move on.
Well, we're dealing with what we got right now. That's what I would say to people. And don't get mad and remember your statements, because those who said those statements, remember your statements, because you think you the best armchair quarterback or armchair coach in the National Football League or around the world. It's not that simple. There's a lot of issues that takes place or a lot of things that need to take place in order for a team to be successful.
Talking to the Pro Football Hall of Famer and Emmitt Smith. Real quickly, your former teammate, now Coach Prime, Deion Sanders. I know it was a rough one this weekend, but what he's done at Colorado has been pretty special. What's kind of been your view on the whole situation?
I think Deion, given time, give him a number of recruiting class members to come in and help support and shore up the things that he may need in order to compete at that level that he needs to. It's just a matter of time. But I think he's done a great job thus far, and I think he's going to continue to do a great job. But, again, it's about bringing the team together and coaching staff together. This is their first year. Got to give them time. They've had some good wins, but they also have had some bad losses. And so he'll be fine.
Tell me about Emergent and Narcan.
Well, Emergent and I came together to bring and spread awareness around the Ready to Rescue program, which is acquiring the Narcan nasal spray so you can help preserve a life or save a life when you find someone in need. I think when we look at what we're trying to do and people that we're trying to reach, a lot of people think, why me or why not me? The question I have for you, because at the end of the day, we all are subject to be around someone or have known of someone that have lost their lives to opioid overdoses. And so for us who are here and people that are capable, which everyone is capable, we're asking you to go out and get your Narcan nasal spray and carry it on you, whether you have it in your first aid kit in your house or have it on you in your purse or your pocket or in your car, because you never know when you might run into someone that might be in need. And so that's what we're trying to convince people and make people aware that this right here actually can work and also can actually save lives. And you can find out more information about it on www.narcan.com.
Last thing I'll ask you, Pro Football Hall of Famer Emmitt Smith with us. When you get to all the teams in the NFL right now, is there one offense that you go, if I was still playing, I would love to be a part of that offense? Because I've thought of one right away.
You thought of one right away? Probably the Eagles of last year's offense.
Okay.
With the offensive coordinator from last year that leveraged everything. But they're doing good right now with Swift. But even though they stumbled yesterday,
yeah,
but they went up a very good defense yesterday too.
Without Sauce Gardner and DJ Reed.
Yeah, they went up against a very good defense yesterday. But what offense you think?
Miami. If we're seeing Raheem Mostert and Devon Achane do what they're doing right now, getting 3-4 touchdowns a week, you're the all-time leading rusher. You're Emmitt Smith.
Miami, they do have a machine going on.
With Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, and Tua, and McDaniel. I thought forever whenever he would speak, I was just not understanding like the inside joke, and he kind of creeped me out a little bit, but that dude is a heck of an offensive mind in the NFL.
So far, so good.
So at the end of the year, Cowboys are what?
I don't know.
Divisional round loss? Again?
If we're lucky to get there.
Wow. So this team could be regressing this year is what you're saying.
It's possible. I mean, the season is long, and I'm looking forward to seeing how we bounce back from last week's loss. Did it bruise our ego enough to where we're hungry to come back out and bring our A game? And that means offensively and defensively along with special teams. Or did it bruise us enough to where we regress? That's remaining to be seen.
He's the Pro Football Hall of Famer, Emmitt Smith. Emmitt, always appreciate your time. Thanks so much for coming in.
Thank you.
Let's get the latest CBS Sports Radio update in with the Act Man, Rich Ackerman.
CBS Sports Radio. Sports Flash.
And it's sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Progressive makes bundling easy and affordable. Get a multi-policy discount by combining your motorcycle, RV, boat, ATV, and more. All your protection in one place. Bundle and save at Progressive.com. The Cowboys look to move within a game of the lead in the NFC East, while the Chargers look to go over the 500 mark. The two teams meet in the Monday night matchup this evening, with L.A. coming off its bye week. Dallas will have next week off after tonight. The Bears' Justin Fields is doubtful for next Sunday with a dislocated thumb, while Jaguars quarterback Trevor Lawrence is okay following a knee injury. He's listed as day-to-day. Jacksonville plays this Thursday night. Rams running back Kyren Williams has a sprained ankle and is doubtful for next week, while Georgia All-American tight end Brock Bowers is having surgery on his injured ankle. He'll miss the next 4 to 6 weeks. Kansas is the number one team in the AP preseason college basketball poll. The Marlins and Kim Ang are parting ways with the general manager, declining the option on her contract. The Rangers will start Max Scherzer in Game 3. Game 2 of the ALCS gets underway in another hour from now between the Rangers up 1-0 and the Astros. I'm Rich Ackerman.
Hey, it's Amy Lawrence. Be sure to listen to CBS Sports Radio at home. Just ask Alexa to play CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
The Zach Gelb Show is on the air across the nation.
Kids, gather around. It's the start of the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio, year whatever on the network. If I'm doing a show then and we're talking about a run for over 2 decades and a team that's won 6 Super Bowl rings, my jaw will be on the floor because I'll be in awe and I'll be in stunned disbelief.
Here's Zach Gelb.
It is time to Ask the Pros, where you, the listener, gets to ask us a question, brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Simply tweet your question at CBS Sports Radio or at Zach Gelb, ZACHGELB, using the hashtag Ask the Pros. Be listening later in the show when we might answer your question. Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get guaranteed low prices and excellent customer service from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Alrighty, let's get to a little onside offside on this Monday edition of the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. Stuart Kovacs, hit it!
Zach's taking on the most polarizing issues in sports. Which side of the line of scrimmage will he end up on?
Offside. Defense number 69.
It's Onsides, Offsides with Zach Gelb on CBS Sports Radio.
All right, Big Mike, CBS, what do we got cooking?
All right, well, Sunday saw a plethora of QBs getting hurt, including the Titans' Ryan Tannehill, who was on crutches after leaving the game with an ankle injury. The 35-year-old is in the last year of his deal in Tennessee and has an overall record of 38-23 with the Titans, but the team has picked quarterbacks in the last 2 drafts, and Will Levis and obviously Willis.
Malik Willis.
Malik Willis.
Yes.
I'm like, wow, how am I drawing a blank on his name?
What are you talking about, Willis?
Yeah, what are you talking about, Willis? Onside, offside. Ryan Tannehill has taken his last snap as the Titans' starting quarterback.
If I was running the team, I would say onsides to this one, because where are you going with Ryan Tannehill? You had an opportunity. He got you close, but yet so far he was much better than Marcus Mariota. I kind of feel that Tennessee, the way that they've treated the quarterback position the last 2 years, is how the Texans treated coaches the 2 years prior to hiring DeMeco Ryans, where you had David Culley and you had Lovie Smith. Nobody thought those 2 guys were going to lead them into the next chapter of Titans football, and no one actually believes that Malik Willis or Will Levis, with the mayo and the coffee and all that, are going to be the next great quarterback for Tennessee. So you pick guys because of the value of where they were. Willis was supposed to be a first-round pick. He ended up going in the 3rd. Levis was supposed to go as early as 3 or 4 in the draft. He ends up going in the 2nd round. So you have guys because of the value, but I don't think either of those guys are going to cut it in the NFL. But give them the opportunity, and you're 2-4. You shouldn't be a playoff team this year. And if neither of those guys can really go move this team forward or show you anything this year, then you take a quarterback in this upcoming draft, or you're aggressive in the trade or free agency cycle. So I would not play Ryan Tannehill anymore if I was Tennessee. So I'll go onsides on that one.
Another big-time quarterback injury was from Stu's Raiders as JG left the game in an ambulance with a back injury. Now, Garoppolo has missed 31 games since becoming regular season games, that is, since becoming a full-time starter in 2017, and counts for $28 million against the cap next season before potential out in 2025. So onside, offside, the Raiders should go all in with Jimmy G rather than trying a rebuild in Vegas.
This is not a revisionist history type of take. I said this the moment they signed Jimmy Garoppolo. It was a massive, massive, massive mistake. I have never thought Jimmy G was that dude. I've never thought Jimmy G was a great quarterback in New England. We knew that Jimmy G never was going to really get an opportunity because Brady was there. The fact that Belichick wanted to move on from Brady reportedly and go to Jimmy Garoppolo is just absolutely laughable. And then in San Francisco, he showed you he could win games, but he was more a product of the system. And when push came to shove in the Super Bowl with a 10-point lead with 7.5 to go, he got the ball batted down at the line of scrimmage by Chris Jones' big mitt, and then he had Emmanuel Sanders wide open, and he overthrew him. To move off of Derek Carr, which I had no problem with. I don't think Derek Carr is that great. But to move off of Derek Carr and just bring in Jimmy Garoppolo, it's so wah, wah, wah. It's underwhelming. You needed to get Brady. You needed to go out and trade for Aaron Rodgers, or do what was reported, well, I think it was Jay Glazer, that they were looking to go and trade up to get C.J. Stroud. You needed to sell hope. Jimmy Garoppolo doesn't sell hope. You know what he is. He's a solid quarterback. He's a quarterback who is always going to get hurt. So the Raiders do a lot of dumb things. If they continue to build moving forward, thinking Jimmy Garoppolo is their guy, then they're more lost than we currently think they are. And right now, it's like you could slap their face on a milk carton because they're the lost child and we're all looking for him. So you ask me the Raiders should go all in with Jimmy G rather than try a rebuild? Yeah, that's a no from me, dog. Offside.
Offside.
You're the third person today who's called me dog.
Who else?
Nobody.
You a hungry dog that runs faster. That's the way that I view Big Mike CBS.
Nobody's ever called me dog. You're the first in the history of my life. Tyreek Hill has been called a dog before, I'm sure. He's on pace for an insane 2,300 receiving yards after pulling in 161 more yards in Sunday's blowout of Carolina.
And he got hurt, too, for a little bit.
He sure did. After his 41-yard touchdown catch, Hill took a fan's phone and filmed himself doing a backflip before handing the phone back to the fan. Now, of course, he expects to get fined, and the NFL probably will. But onside, offside, Tyreek Hill's celebration was fun, and you'd like to see more of that.
So I don't know if everyone saw the whole video, but a fan's filming him in the first row while he caught the touchdown. Like, while the ball was in the air, he's filming him, caught touchdown, and Tyreek Hill immediately runs over to the phone and then does a backflip. If you could do a backflip, I'm not going to question it. It's pretty damn impressive because if I tried to do a backflip, I would be out for the foreseeable future. And I don't think Samter could do a backflip, and I do not think that Stu could do a backflip either. But do you think that was planned by Tyreek Hill, where he had someone sitting in the first row and said, record me whenever there's a deep throw? Because immediately, and it doesn't matter if it was planned or not, and I think it's pretty cool and neat, he runs right over to that fan to grab that cell phone, Samter. So I was wondering if that was someone that was put in the crowd by Tyreek Hill.
If it wasn't, Tyreek Hill has eagle eyes to have seen a guy recording him on a phone while you're catching a ball running open fender. To see the guy is incredible because he ran right towards him. It wasn't like he looked around randomly and saw the guy. He ran right towards him after he scored that touchdown.
So in back-to-back weeks, we had Tyreek Hill trying to give the football to his mother, which created headlines because that one fan didn't realize that it was his mother standing behind him, and then eventually gave the football to Tyreek Hill's mother. And then the following week, we have him doing a crazy backflip with the fan's phone that may or may not have been someone working with him or his friend. Either way, I think it's awesome. I don't think he should get fined whatsoever. The NFL will fine him because they're the NFL, the no fun league. But I grew up loving the Joe Horn celebration with the cell phone when he called his son. You also had Chad Ochocinco with the pylon, using it as a putter. Terrell Owens with the pom-poms, with the Cowboys cheerleaders, and San Francisco 49ers, too, with the get your popcorn ready. That stuff was awesome. I love celebrations like that, and it didn't harm anyone. There's no wrong with having fun. So you asked me the NFL should... Tyreek Hill's celebration was fun, and you want to see more of it? Yeah, absolutely. I love personality. Onsides.
For the past 3 weeks, we've seen games played overseas in London, but the NFL might take it one step further. In talks with fans, Roger Goodell admitted the league has considered a London Super Bowl, saying, quote, it's not impossible and it's something that's been discussed before, end quote. So onside, offside, the NFL should hold a Super Bowl in London.
So I'm not a big soccer fan. You think over the pond they're ever bringing a big soccer final here to the U.S.?
Maybe.
No, never.
Possibly.
If the NFL, I know they're a bunch of greedy pigs. And I say this loving the NFL, but they're a bunch of greedy pigs. If we have a Super Bowl in London or in Germany, stop it. You better be bringing it to every American city before you go to London and Germany for a Super Bowl. And then the traveling and all that stuff, stop. You guys make so much money as it is, $14, $15 billion a year. You could afford to skip out on the money that you would make in London to grow the game. And we don't need to put a Super Bowl in there. So that's a hard no from me. When you ask me, the NFL should hold a Super Bowl in London. That is the easiest offside ever.
Offside.
Deion Sanders' Colorado hype train officially got derailed on Friday night after the
Coach
team.
Prime, show some respect. We're believers here.
You know what? After what happened on Friday, he's no longer Coach Prime. He is Deion Sanders.
Oh, that's
because
not
they
nice.
blew a 29-0 halftime lead.
Coach
in a
Prime,
loss to
that's Samter, not me. The views of Michael Samter do not reflect the views of Zach Gelb here on the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports.
Zach, don't lie. You told me before the show, do not call him Coach Prime anymore.
I love Coach
You
Prime.
said to me, hey,
I'm
he's
a
no
Coach
longer
Prime
Coach
guy.
You said, Samter, I am Zach Gelb. I'm no longer
no.
referring to him as Coach Prime.
Nope. Now you're trying to stage something like Tyreek Hill is staging a celebration.
I may or
Stop
may not
with
be
that
trying to get you in
hogwash.
trouble. Well, so they lost to previously one-win Stanford. The Buffs scored just 7 points in 6 second-half possessions, falling to 4-3 on the season and just 1-3 in Pac-12 play. Yeah, that's more than a choke
Sorry.
job. Onside, offside. Colorado, with their 4 wins, will still play in a bowl game.
So the way I look at this is that no one expected them to beat TCU to start the season. They did. And then no one thought they would lose to Stanford, and they did. So that's kind of evens itself out. They're at 4 wins. You need 2 more to get to bowl eligibility. UCLA, Oregon State's going to be tough. You still got Arizona on that schedule. Washington State will be tough, and Utah will be tough. So take care of business against Arizona, and then you got to win 1 of those 4 games against tough teams in UCLA, Oregon State, Washington State, and Utah. I think they'll still find a way to get to 6 wins. So I am a believer. Coach Prime, big fan of Coach Prime. Colorado will play in a bowl game on sides.
All right, I can try to sneak in this last one.
Go ahead.
All right.
2-minute drill.
Obviously,
Omaha.
Jaden Daniels has been great for LSU despite their bad season. He has 2,300 yards, 22 touchdowns, including 500 yards on the ground and 4 touchdowns there. Is Jaden Daniels a legitimate NFL quarterback?
Yeah, I don't think anyone's talking about him. And I'm sure as we get closer and closer to the draft process, more people will talk about him. I don't know if he's going to be a first-round pick, but he's a mobile quarterback. And if he's still there in the 2nd or 3rd round, there'll be a bunch of teams come knocking. And maybe he does find a way to squeak into the 1st round, because every year there's a quarterback no one's talking about becoming a first-round pick, and they end up becoming a first-round pick. So I will go onsides there that he could be a legitimate starting quarterback like his style of play.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 2 minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
Alrighty, rocking and rolling hour number 2 of our radio program. That's right, it is the Zach Gelb Show, coast to coast on CBS Sports Radio. I will get to 3 college football takes from over the weekend in just a bit. But I'm really surprised by one thing so far. After the San Francisco 49ers go down yesterday, for the last few weeks, I have taken a phone call from Ryan in Santa Barbara. And he has called me all the names in the book for not admitting that the 49ers are the best team in football. And we're now 60 minutes into the show, and I don't know where Ryan is. He hasn't called at 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. And it's kind of like the Eagles and the 49ers are now that Spider-Man gif that we always see on social media, and that meme too, because whatever the 49ers do this year, the Eagles do, and whatever the Eagles do, the 49ers do. And that was kind of made evident through the first few weeks of the season when they were both undefeated. And yesterday, the 49ers lose, and I'm not going to lie, I was sitting back saying, it's going to be nice not to hear from those 49ers fans this week that always love to tell me when their team's doing well, but then we don't hear from them when their team's doing poorly. And I'm like, okay, Philadelphia, even though I'm not an Eagles fan, but you're going up against the Jets. The Jets don't have DJ Reed. The Jets don't have Sauce Gardner. That should be an easy-peasy win. And then Jalen Hurts decided to make an ill-advised throw in the final minute plus of the game, gets a good return. Eagles allow the Jets to score, which was the right decision. And the next thing you know, Jalen Hurts couldn't get the job done. So 49ers and Eagles, when they both win, right? We get into that debate. Eagles, 49ers, what's the case? Now both lose. Don't hear from many 49ers nor Eagles fans today. They're still 2 of the best teams in football. But yes, the Detroit Lions are now emerged into that conversation as that next team in the NFC. And the Lions can make a big run at this at 5-1. And they have a good schedule that does work in favor of the Lions the rest of the way with a lot of bad teams in front of them. Okay, let's do this. I want to get to 3 college football takes. The game of the year so far in college football, And I know some people could say, oh, it was Red River with Texas and Oklahoma. I thought Washington and Oregon, with 2 top 10 teams, lived up to the hype and then some. That was a phenomenal football game. And I said this to Emmitt Smith, where we were talking about Dan Campbell. And I'm like, Dan Campbell's a psycho. And he's like, what do you mean a psycho? And I'm like, I mean that in a good way. Like, I want my football coach to be a psycho. Dan Lanning, he goes to this different level when he's on the sideline where he just looks like a madman. And he looks like he's unhinged. And he just gets, and you kind of saw that in the pregame speech against Colorado a few weeks ago when he's going up against Coach Prime. He's like, oh, they play for clicks. He goes, use your helmet. Talk with your helmet. And he's like pointing to his head. And I thought that was such an electric speech. And it was awesome. And it was stupid to me how he got any pushback and blowback for that speech. But in the game against Washington, he was super aggressive. And you could tell he fed off of being aggressive. And I've been critical of some coaches that I think are too aggressive, like Brandon Staley. But all the decisions that Dan Lanning made, I didn't have a problem with. And during the game, even the one late when he goes for it, he was coaching that way the entire game. And if your kicker just made the kick at the end of the game, we're going to overtime, and who knows how that would have ended between Washington and Oregon. But that was a phenomenal, and I mean a phenomenal football game. And I had no problem with Lanning going for it. And not only that, I saw a lot of people when Michael Penix Jr., who, oh my God, that dude was banged up. That dude has had a history of injuries going back to Indiana. And there was a moment where I said, it just stinks. Where it's his game, it's his time to shine. And now he's getting hurt and it's going to derail this game. But he just kept on stepping up and making big play after big play. And right now, he is by far and away the leader of the Heisman Trophy. Where we'll get to Caleb Williams in a second, but he took a massive step back this past weekend. Drake May is going to start to jump into that conversation. Jordan Travis at Florida State is in that conversation. You have a few guys as well. Bo Nix, because he just lost to Michael Penix. Now he takes a few steps back. Dylan Gabriel, they're probably going to be undefeated Oklahoma going into that Big 12 championship. So he's in the conversation. Don't sleep on J.J. McCarthy. I told you that in week 1, especially if Michigan runs the table. J.J. McCarthy, with how many weapons they have, the quarterback usually does get to shine. And now Brock Bowers is going to be out minimum 4 to 6 weeks from the surgery. So if it was one non-quarterback to win the Heisman Trophy this year, a lot of people looked at Brock Bowers at Georgia, and now he's going to be out of the mix. But Michael Penix Jr. had a Heisman moment. And there was some people when I was looking at social media where he scored in those 2 plays and then Oregon gets the ball back. They're like, oh, he scored too quickly. I don't want to hear about scoring too quickly because earlier in the game, shortly right before that, they got down to the 1-yard line, Washington, and they couldn't get the ball in the end zone. So you don't want to get yourself in a position where you get too cute and you're trying to decide how and when you're going to score, and then you end up fumbling it and something going wrong. So I had no problem with the aggressive nature of Kalen DeBoer and Michael Penix, and I had no problem with the aggressive nature of Dan Lanning and that Oregon football team. I just thought, as someone that didn't have a dog in the fight, I like Dan Lanning at Oregon. I'm a big fan of Kalen DeBoer, and that guy only has 2 losses ever since going to Washington a year ago, and both those losses were under 8 points. And that team, they were my pick, Washington, before the year to win the Pac-12. I'm sticking with them now. I know their schedule's brutal, and the Pac-12 is going to beat up against one another. But that was just such a fun football game where it was explosive offense. It was a great atmosphere. It's the final year of the Pac-12, and you just had 2 heavyweights inside the top 10 just going at it, and it kind of stinks that we didn't get to see overtime, and it's a shame that a kicker, and you always say you can't trust college kickers, just couldn't hit that kick to get us to overtime. Do we have the audio of I think this on the Washington Huskies radio network? This is how it sounded when the Oregon kicker missed the chip shot.
This from 42. Good snap, good hold. Kick is on the way. Kick is up. End over end kick is no good. He missed it. He missed it wide right. He missed it wide right. I don't believe it, Cam. I don't believe it. It's pandemonium in
And a classic indeed. So I can't praise enough the Washington program, but really that was the game of the year for me so far through the first 6, 7, 8 weeks of the college football season. And Michael Penix Jr. right now is the top dog for the Heisman Trophy. Next college football take. USC losing to Notre Dame. Not surprising, but it's the way that USC lost to Notre Dame. All year long, I said that USC was not going to find a way to get to the college football playoff. They were not going to find a way to win the Pac-12 championship because I thought it was a gross miscalculation and too much loyalty that the head coach of USC with the Trojans, Lincoln Riley, had to his defensive coordinator, Alex Grinch. And that defense for USC, you knew, and you already saw signs of it in games that they won, was not going to be able to step up and deliver when you got into a high-octane offensive shootout, right? Like if USC was going to lose, I thought they would have lost 41-38. And I know they allowed a lot of points, but I didn't walk away saying, oh, the USC defense in that game was the reason why they lost. They lost, and what made it jarring was the best player in college football, the guy that is assumed to be the number 1 overall pick in the draft, and you have teams tanking for him. In the biggest game to the moment so far for USC this year, he failed. And it was stunning. Now, great players play bad games. But usually when a great player plays a bad game, it's ugly and they find a way to pull it out. But those mistakes just ended USC having any chance in the game. With the 3 interceptions, and also he didn't even clear 200 yards passing. He was at 199, but he was close. But I would have never thought the reason why USC was going to go down, and the number one reason why USC did go down, was because the quarterback came up small on such a big stage. And Notre Dame, they're a funky team to figure out. They really are. Because I thought Notre Dame was going to beat Ohio State. And Notre Dame should have beat Ohio State. And if you're an Irish fan, like, yeah, you're thrilled that you beat USC. But it's impossible to not look back and say, what could have been for this season? Because you should have defeated Ohio State. You didn't take advantage in the first half. Then towards the end of the game, you dropped an interception. You also had only 10 guys on the field on the final touchdown as the clock hit 0. Then the next week, you had to grind it out against Duke in a game that they probably should have lost, but they won. The following week, you lose by 13 or 12, whatever it was, to Louisville. And now you bounce back against USC, and you don't only beat them, you ran them off the field in South Bend. So, Stu, I know you're a Notre Dame fan. You got to be thrilled with beating USC because of the rivalry, and it's always great to beat USC. But when you have that euphoria kind of settle down after the game of, wow, not only did we beat USC, but we kicked the living snot out of them, you got to look back and say, if they would have just won one of those games that they lost, it would be a different tone today about what the Irish could accomplish for the rest of the season.
Yeah, it's what could have been. In the Ohio State game, yeah, it feels like they beat themselves. The Duke game, like you said, was sloppy. They should have, could have lost. And then to lose to Louisville, who got smoked by Pittsburgh this weekend, it just doesn't make any sense. And then they smoke USC. It's just typical Notre Dame, I would say.
And in a 12-team format, you'll get teams in that have 2 losses. But in a 4-team format, we've never seen a team get into the college football playoff with 2 losses. So I think because Notre Dame is graded on a different scale now because of what happened in the last decade or so, where they would have the record, the brand, they would get into the big game, and then they just wouldn't show up. Whether that was the championship game against Alabama when it was just 2 teams getting in, and then the 2 times that they did get it into the college football playoff with it being a 4-team. So I do still believe that Notre Dame probably would have had to be undefeated to get into the college football playoff. But as we saw last year, there were some teams that didn't win their conference championship, and Notre Dame's not in a conference. And like at the end of the year, they just all kept on stumbling on one another. So if enough teams stumbled and you had 1 loss, and let's say that 1 loss was that bizarre one to Louisville, and let's say you beat Ohio State, you go on to beat Clemson in a few weeks, and you beat USC, it could have been tough to keep Notre Dame out of the college football playoff, depending on how this shapes out. Like, it's tough to say one loss Notre Dame now, and I know they have 2 losses, would have got in, just because the Big Ten, you have those 3 teams humming, and we're going to get to see Ohio State, Penn State this weekend, noon kick. In the ACC, it looks like we're on a collision course to Florida State and also UNC. In the Big 12, Oklahoma's the lead dog, but don't be surprised if Texas gets their revenge in the Big 12 championship game. And, it looks like it's either Georgia or bust in the SEC. And then when you go to the Pac-12, right now I would lean Washington. I leaned them before the start of the season. But those teams, they always beat up on one another inside of the Pac-12. So it's crowded right now. In a few weeks, though, it will be less crowded, and it happens each and every year. So, yes, great win for Notre Dame. It was a game that Marcus Freeman needed, and it was a dominant victory in year number 2. But it's impossible to not also acknowledge it the other way and say, man, if they would have just found a way to split either Ohio State or Louisville, and probably the one that annoys you more is the Ohio State one, because you had that game won. The Louisville game, you just didn't show up. And then finally, I've given this take before, and I will give it again. If you need more proof that Jimbo Fisher should be fired, and Jimbo Fisher is the most overrated coach in the country, I don't know what more proof you need than the last 2 weeks. Right? Week 2, they didn't show up in the second half against Miami. With all the talent that they have, they posted, a 5-7 record last year with all that talent, top recruiting class, and going into this year, we're sitting in mid-October, and they already have 3 losses. And in back-to-back weeks, you go up against a vulnerable Alabama team where your coach got soft after going up 17-10, then it's 17-17. He doesn't go for it on 4th and 1. And Jimbo Fisher, after the game, has the audacity to say, if it was 4th and inches, I would have gone for it, but not go for it on 4th and 1, which is like the dumbest quote I've ever heard. Like, there are some dumb quotes that we've heard from coaches and some arrogant coaches. I don't know if there's a dumber quote than what Jimbo Fisher delivered a week ago. And then you follow it up against Tennessee, which is not like this juggernaut Tennessee team. And it's a low-scoring game, and you can't find the way to get the job done, and you lose 20-13. I know that you're without Connor Wigman. He's done for the season. But it's not as if Johnson is a bad quarterback. He had that one good year at LSU, even though the team stunk. So I look at Jimbo Fisher. You have all this talent, but you can't win games. So is it just, it's the only reason he still has a job is because of the $70 million buyout. But if you're a fan of A&M, that passionate fan base, you got to be demanding, you got to be imploring the boosters to pay that $70 million and buy him out at the end of the year. Because the last 2 years, he's had really good rosters, and he's had really bad results. So those are my 3 college football takes from the weekend. Washington, Oregon, best game of the season. Penix moves into the lead spot for the Heisman Trophy. Jimbo Fisher must go. And USC goes down. I didn't think they were going to go down that way in the style, but their season is now on life support, and there's no doubt about it, they're going to lose again, because if they lost and it wasn't because of their defense being reason one, that will eventually be reason one why they will drop another game or 2 moving on for the rest of the season. 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227, right on cue. All right, you call him out, and he pops up, so I respect that. Ryan in Santa Barbara, I thought he was going to avoid me today after his 49ers didn't go down. What? You know what, Ryan? There's a famous question on social media.
Come on, Zach.
What happened?
No,
what happened?
Bottom line, don't talk. Don't talk. I will pay for your flight to Santa Barbara from New York City and give you a wine tour, you and your wife or girlfriend or your son and daughters. I guarantee the Niners will win the Super Bowl. And wait, what? Your mumbler at who did they lose to? The Jets? Oh my God, it's so pathetic.
Wait, my mumble? What do you mean?
I will fire.
You know I'm not an Eagles fan, right?
My kicker.
You know I'm not an Eagles fan, right?
What?
You know I'm not an Eagles fan, right?
No, I know you're not. You're a mumbler fan.
Oh, the Patriots. Oh, the mumbler. Yeah, they've won 6 Super Bowls, so don't be taking shots at them.
Yeah, good luck. They're not winning anything, and I think I think they're just trying to.
Well, Ryan, how old are you? Just wondering. How old are you?
I am you know what? I'm about to turn 50 on December.
Well,
December
happy
19th.
birthday, but it's been a long time since you've won. What the heck do you know about winning? Your team comes close every year, and they drop the ball. So don't tell me about winning. You don't know jack about winning.
Wait, whoa. So are you telling me that the Niners threw that game, or they should have won that game if it wasn't for that kook kicker?
I don't want to hear about what should have happened. You didn't win the game. I'm going to sound like a college football coach now. I don't deal in hypotheticals. I deal in reality. You let the Browns hang around too long, and you lost. You lost. And your great quarterback, your great quarterback, Brock Purdy, doesn't look like an MVP when Debo and McCaffrey are out, right?
Right.
You want to retract the MVP statement from a week ago?
Okay.
So you still think the Niners are winning the Super Bowl?
Yes. Who do you have? Come on. Bring it.
Who do I have winning the Super Bowl? Until someone knocks them down, I'll still go Kansas City. I will still take Kansas City because we said the same thing last year. We said the same thing last year. They're vulnerable, and guess what? They got the job done. And you know what? I'll still trust the Eagles more in a big game than I will the 49ers.
All right, well.
And you know who's coming? You know who's coming, Ryan?
What? Yeah, tell me.
We're biting off kneecaps soon. Dan Campbell and those 5-1 Lions. I love them. And they got an easy-peasy schedule the rest of the way. You may have to go to Detroit. You may have to go to Detroit for an NFC title game. How do you like them apples?
Detroit. You're out of your mind.
Harbaugh and Schwartz will get them in midfield shaking hands again before the game, running after one another.
You can't outscream me. I'm coming after you, Zach. That is it.
Ryan, you want to be me. You'll never be me. I can outscream you any day of the week. Get off my show. Enough with Ryan in Santa Barbara. At least he popped up. You know who Ryan's starting to sound like? Starting to sound like a Cowboy fan. He's moving into cockroach territory, that Ryan in Santa Barbara. It's a good phone call. Now, also, that's not a good bet for me, Samter. Because if, God forbid, well, it's not unlikely that the Niners don't win the Super Bowl. I have to go drink wine with Ryan? There's no way I'm doing that.
Well, first of all, you're getting a free vineyard tour and free delicious homemade vineyard wine right there. So, it's not about hanging out with Ryan.
Is he trustworthy, though, to find the right places?
He has his own winery. He does his own things. You don't have to find places. You just drink his wine.
I don't know. I don't want to drink his tears in a few weeks. That would be nice. And it's the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. Come on back. We'll update you some of the biggest stories in the world of sports with some audio. We call that segment the News Brief.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 3 minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Time for your daily news brief. We get you caught up on the rumors, reports, and reconnaissance from the day in sports.
A lot of wacky results yesterday in the NFL. You saw the Eagles lose to the Jets, stunning. You thought Ryan and Santa Barbara's 49ers would beat Cleveland, especially without Deshaun Watson, and the 49ers go down. And it looked like the Giants were about to go into Orchard Park without Daniel Jones, and they were going to find a way to steal a game from the Buffalo Bills. You could go back to the end of the first half where the Giants bare minimum should have got a field goal. Instead, they run the ball, and you have the Buffalo Bills pile up and huddle up on the Giants, and then the play runs out, and you walked into halftime with no points from that drive, and Brian Daboll was heated with Tyrod Taylor walking off the field. Here's Brian Daboll after the game on the run play to end the first half.
Had a play called. It was a run action pass play, and ended up alerting it to a run. Didn't get it off.
So I just don't get it. I know why Brian Daboll is upset, but does Tyrod Taylor just have the freedom, Tyrod Taylor, to change that play to a run? If so, that's a problem. Like, if he just did it on his own, oh, we're going to run, and you called the pass play, then that's on him, and that's stupid. But if he had the ability to do that, it's like, how don't you make sure that you're throwing the ball in that spot to make sure that you preserve some of the clock so you can still get a field goal if you don't get the ball in the end zone. Here is Darren Waller at the end of the game. They got one penalty, right? It was incomplete. You think, okay, the game's over, and I had the Bills in Survivor, so I was sweating this one out, especially with earlier in the day, the Eagles going down, the 49ers going down. I see a lot of people, a lot of dominoes that were falling yesterday, and I'm sitting there nice and pretty in that Sunday night game going, okay, this is going to be a nice little easy Sunday night football game. Bills will crush the Giants, and then you had to sweat that one out. And after the first penalty, they then throw the ball to Darren Waller, and Darren Waller was mugged again, but the refs did not call it. And here is Darren Waller on if there was a penalty on the final play.
There was contact, but I'm not somebody that's going to get into what a call should have been or how to tell officials how to do their job, because there's a way for me to make that play there, and it wasn't made. So that's something that's what I focus on.
So, Samter, what I'm about to say is going to sound stupid, but I also think it's logical. What a way to preface that, if that makes any sense. Since they got the penalty on the play prior, I didn't think they were going to get the penalty again. I didn't think you were going to see back-to-back flags thrown there. Should there have been another flag thrown? Yes. But when watching the replay again, because at first everyone's like, oh, he was mugged, throw the flag, throw the flag. When I watch it again, I go, it needed to be more egregious for the flag to be thrown again. Like, that shouldn't be the way that the game is officiated, but I just kind of try to interpret the way I expect the game to be officiated.
No, I don't disagree with you at all. I think if it's like so egregious you can't not throw the flag, that's one thing. But when you're talking about kind of questionable things, you can't do it twice in a row. Like, make the play or don't make the play.
And also, if they would have got the field goal before the end of the half, you would have needed to have thrown the football there on the final play, because you would have kicked a field goal and you would have won the game. Because that would have been 14-12. I know you can't play it that way, but that's the way that I play it. And it would have been 14-12. You just kick the field goal and you end up winning 15-14. What was bizarre to me, Saquon Barkley's your best offensive player. You don't run a pitch to Saquon there. You don't run the ball with Saquon there. Saquon can't get you 1 yard there on the goal line, which is ironic because we were all crushing the Giants at the end of the first half for running the football. But just needing 1 yard with the game on the line, I would have gone with Saquon Barkley. Here is Robert Saleh. No Sauce Gardner, no DJ Reed. You're going up against the defending NFC champs in the Philadelphia Eagles, and you had 4 turnovers. Here is Robert Saleh with high praise for his defense.
Thought defense, per the usual, outstanding. Through these first 6 weeks, we've played a gauntlet of quarterbacks. I know we haven't gotten all wins, but we've embarrassed all of them.
How about that? We haven't gotten all wins, but we've embarrassed all of them. Robert Saleh is really feeling himself in the media the last few weeks, because I think he needs to kind of feed into that New York fan base, because there had to be some fear that he wouldn't be back if the Jets had a down year, even with the Rodgers injury, and they would have got rid of him. But now with Robert Saleh having this team at 3-3 and having a chance to go be a playoff team once again, I don't think it hurts to be a little cocky here and kind of just feed into that Jet fan base that's looking for some optimism with Aaron Rodgers on the sidelines right now. Here is Trevor Lawrence, who got banged up. We'll see if he'll be able to return Thursday, short week on Thursday Night Football against the Saints. But Trevor Lawrence discusses the Jaguars' win over the Indianapolis Colts.
This is where we want to be. We're getting better every week. I think that's the most exciting thing is we're getting better every week. We're getting closer. I feel like the momentum and the energy is really rolling for us, and we got to keep that going every week.
So I still don't know what the ceiling is for the Jaguars, and the injury's not supposed to be serious. It's going to be day-to-day. We'll see if he can give it a go on Thursday. And what I mean by the ceiling is I don't know how great the Jaguars could be. But the Jaguars showed you yesterday, and the Colts, by the way, they have not won a game in Jacksonville since 2014. But you see that people are starting to get optimistic about the Colts, even with Anthony Richardson potentially being done for the year. And the Jaguars just show inside the AFC South, even though they lost to the Texans by 20 points this year, that this is still their division. Like, you'll drop a game in division, but with people starting to talk up the Colts a little bit, Jacksonville said, yeah, not so fast. You're not really a contender inside this AFC South. Here is Zach Taylor on getting back to 500 as the Cincinnati Bengals did grind out a victory against the Seattle Seahawks, and their defense came up big.
We kind of stubbed our toe, starting this race off, and we're going to continue to pick up steam. And again, there's days where our defense is going to lead the charge and lead us to victory. There's times where the offense is going to reciprocate that. There's times special teams can take over. And I think good teams just find ways to do it. And right now we're at that 3-3 mark, going into a bye, get a chance to get healthy, and then hit the surge after the bye starting with San Francisco.
And on Ion Football yesterday, we played the Joe Burrow press conference. You would have thought they would have lost the game by 30 points because that offense was so inefficient in the second half. And he sounded as if he was at a funeral and it was like the worst day of his life, the quarterback of the Bengals. But with all those injuries and all those problems start the year, to be 3-3 going into the bye, you get healthy now, and then coming out of the bye, you just got to split against the 49ers and Bills, and then it's a brand new season for the Cincinnati Bengals. Rex Ryan, who it would not surprise me if he is the defensive coordinator soon to the Denver Broncos. He wanted that job before the season. I heard Pat McAfee was talking about that earlier today. Rex Ryan, we know he always enjoys when the Patriots stink, and he enjoyed just crushing the Patriots today on Get Up.
All things considered, what is your number one takeaway from
this team? Sucks. Like, I'm telling you, they stink. They absolutely stink. Where's the fight? Where's the energy? Where's the passion?
Yeah.
Like, I don't see it, dude. I don't see it.
Well, Rex doesn't understand that the team's tanking. And I'm leading the charge here. Tank. I want the Patriots to be as bad as possible because the last few years they were stuck anywhere between 7 to 10 wins. That's the worst place you could be stuck in because you're not having good enough draft picks to go move this team forward and try to rebuild this back up. So have Rex Ryan enjoy the Patriots' failures. Have them enjoy when they're down in the gutter and they're out. And, maybe they get rid of Belichick at the end of the year. We'll still have to wait and see on that. But I want a top 5 draft pick, and I want a new quarterback in there. And then you have to develop the new quarterback properly, which they failed to do the last 2 years with Mac Jones. But come on, Rex. Like, the highlight of your career as a head coach was beating the Patriots in the playoffs. That was the highlight of your career. And you didn't even win the Super Bowl because you ran your mouth too much and you didn't show up against the Pittsburgh Steelers the following week. So let Rex Ryan sit there on his big set on ESPN and just rip the Patriots. You wish you were Bill Belichick.
This team sucks.
You suck, Rex Ryan. I actually like Rex Ryan. That's the shame of the whole thing. I think Rex Ryan is very entertaining. Here is Coach Prime, Deion Sanders. They're up 29-0. Imagine if you turned the game off at halftime. And I'm sure there's a lot of people, especially because Coach Prime was not happy with the East Coast, for the East Coast fans, with the game starting at 10 p.m. He wasn't a big fan of that. But imagine if you turn that game off and you wake up the next day and you're like, what? It's kind of similar as the week before with Miami. Maybe you turn the game off for the final minute or two, and then all you have to do is kneel down the football, and Mario Cristobal says, now we're going to run the ball and then allow the other team to go 75 yards down the field. So those back-to-back weeks were things you couldn't even imagine end up happening. And Coach Prime and the Colorado Buffaloes lose to Stanford in overtime. I don't know what Shedeur Sanders was doing. Take the field goal there, and he had a bad interception in overtime. But here is Coach Prime on the awful loss to Stanford where they blew a 29-0 lead.
Right now, we're not built for the moment. We're not built for the moment. Some of our players aren't built for the moment where they have to make a play or they have to keep contained or they have to make a block or they have to get another yard. We're not built for the moment right now.
And we all love the Colorado story, or a lot of us love the Colorado story, and it kind of set expectations out of whack. Like before the year, if you would have told me this team had 4 or 5 wins, everyone would have signed up for that. That's what I said on this show when I was filling in. That 4 or 5 wins would be a good season for Colorado, and they're already at 4 wins. You got to think they'll get 2 more and find their way into a bowl game. But if they don't and they come up 1 short, this is the one that you're going to look back at and say, man, you should have found a way to win that game. But they're building this thing from the ground up out in Boulder. Here's Caleb Williams on his 3-interception game against Notre Dame.
I made mistakes that I usually don't make. Been in college for 3 years now, and I don't think I've ever had a season or game or anything like that.
And that was the stunning part. I would have thought that USC would have lost because their defense lost in a shootout, and the defense wasn't good enough. But the quarterback just was not even close to being good enough, and he's still going to be number 1 overall pick. I still believe he's going to be a great player. But, man, that was a bad performance for Caleb Williams up against USC. 33-29, Oregon was up. They had the ball, 4th and 3 at Washington's 47, and they elected to go for it. I had no problem with the play call, and I had no problem in deciding to go for it in that spot. Dan Lanning was aggressive the entire game. I don't think you stop there. Here is Dan Lanning on going for it in the 4th quarter.
We checked to see if we liked the look. We liked the look before we ran the play. We had a timeout if we didn't like the look. We liked the look, and we just didn't execute.
And every mistake that you could say, any part of the aggression that you didn't like, they found a way to put them in a position to overcome it. If you go back to the first half, and then right there, the kicker just has to make a field goal. No one's talking about Dan Lanning going for it on 4th and 3 because then the game goes into overtime. And finally, This was on College Game Day before the Washington-Oregon game. I like to say with Brock Purdy, he rocks out with his Brock out instead of yesterday. Well, in college, there is another male private part, let's just say, that gets used with another player and a nickname or a play on words. Here is Desmond Howard before the game talking about Michael Penix Jr.
Every time he takes the field, he's going to bring that big Penix energy. He's going to bring that big Penix energy. He's going to bring that big Penix energy. That's right, Harry. Let's go, baby.
I've been pronouncing his name wrong.
No, I think you got it right.
So, Samter, you want to know my takeaways from that? Because the first time I said rock out with your Brock out, you thought I was going to slip up and say the other word. How close Penix is to the other word, how he didn't actually say the other word was very impressive with how many times he said that, Samter.
That was impressive, although he was screaming it and there were fans behind him. It's possible he said it without us realizing he actually said it.
I don't know. That mic was right there. It was pretty good quality. Do you have big Penix energy, by the way?
No. Nope. I do not.
I'm just trying to learn a little bit more about you. I'm trying to learn about Big
Me
Mike
and Cam
CPS.
Newton have one thing in common.
It's a good line. You can stream the NFL on Westwood One for free, sponsored by AutoZone. All season long, you can listen to every Westwood One broadcast of the NFL Live on the NFL app by asking Alexa to open Westwood One Sports or on the Odyssey app. Get in the zone, AutoZone. The free AutoZone Fix Finder service can help you find a fix for free. Get in the zone, AutoZone. Restrictions apply. Now let's go to a man that does have big Penix energy. The great Rich Ackerman.
CBS Sports Radio. Sports Flag.
Well, the American League Championship Series resumes while the NLCS begins tonight. The Rangers going for back-to-back wins after blanking the defending champion Astros last night. They come back with Nathan Eovaldi today, with Houston going with Framber Valdez. The Rangers announcing their Game 3 starter today, and it'll be Max Scherzer, who has missed more than a month due to a shoulder injury. The Phillies, one series away from returning to the World Series, will host the Diamondbacks with Zach Wheeler starting against Zach Gallen in the series opener. Arizona has yet to lose a postseason game. Kim Ng declined her option. She is no longer the general manager of the Miami Marlins. The Chargers have split their first 4 games and will take on the Cowboys tonight. Monday Night Football. Dallas looking to bounce back after the 42-10 pounding by the 49ers last week. Titans quarterback Ryan Tannehill dealing with the same ankle injury that plagued him last year. He'll be reevaluated after the bye week, while the Jaguars' Trevor Lawrence day-to-day with a knee injury. Lions running back David Montgomery will miss a little time with a ribcage injury, and Justin Fields dealing with a dislocated thumb is doubtful for this weekend. I'm Rich Ackerman.
Jim Rome here, coming up Tuesday in the Jungle, a conversation live in studio with former Pro Bowl linebacker Ryan Shazier. See you Tuesday, 12 noon Eastern, 9 Pacific.
CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. 3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
Coach Bruce Arians, take me through the Scotty Miller touchdown right before the end of the first half.
Yeah, it was like, let's go for the throat. I mean, we had a play called, and they came out in their base defense, and it was like perfect call. Byron Leftwich did a great job. He put a great call in. A good protection. Tom made a great throw, and Scotty went and got it. Just really surprised that they weren't guarding the sidelines more.
Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
The New York Jets are 3-3. And the moment that game ended, the first thing I said was before the game, Aaron Rodgers is on the field. And Aaron Rodgers, 4 or 5 weeks removed from having surgery after the Achilles injury that happened 4 weeks into the 4 plays into the season, I should say. And I'm like, how is this guy standing on the field without crutches and he's actually having catch? Like, I just didn't think we would see that. And I don't know if that's like for show on the field, and then he gets into the locker room and he's using crutches and he's still in a lot of pain and things like that. Like, I don't believe it's as pretty and as easy as the way that he's presenting it publicly on the field. But when you have a team that's 3-3 and Aaron Rodgers is still giving hope that he could come back, that's going to become a story now. And I don't believe Aaron Rodgers coming back this year. I'll believe it when I see it. But then yet again, I didn't think you'd see him on the field before the game having catch, throwing the ball around and playing catch. So without crutches too. So it's kind of incredible how he's able to walk around that easily a few weeks after the surgery. And there's one thing to say, oh yeah, I'll be back this year. I'm not going to rule it out, blah, blah, blah. But then to kind of show you signs that maybe you're moving in that direction, it does play with your mind. So I got to just do a little check here on Samter. Because Samter, he's fugazi when it comes to being a football fan. And I don't mean that in a disrespectful way, but he was a Jet fan his entire life. And then, this started, I'm assuming, right after the Rodgers injury that you gave up on the franchise?
Yeah, 4 plays into the season, I'm no longer a Jets fan.
And now you root for the Kansas City Chiefs.
Let's go Chiefs Kingdom, baby.
But now this team is 3-3. They've given you some hope where if you look at their 3 losses, all right, they got slammed by the Cowboys. They lost to the Patriots. That's a bad loss. And then you lost to Kansas City by 3 points. I can't get on the Jets for that. So they've really only had one bad loss, like one criminal loss this year. And I say that as a Patriot fan, where they should have won the game against New England. They haven't beat the Patriots 14 or 15 straight times, whatever the number is. So now at 3-3, with this defense winning a game yesterday against who I believe is the best team in the NFC, in the Philadelphia Eagles, and you also didn't have Sauce Gardner and DJ Reed, is Samter, who may not say this publicly because he's boisterous and he's now doing this whole thing where it's like, oh, I'm a Chiefs fan, and you're trying to stalk probably Travis Kelce when he's walking around with Taylor Swift this weekend in New York City. Oh, you were there?
Oh, yeah. I was following all the way to SNL.
Those were the high-pitched screams that I heard in New York City
on
Saturday evening? Oh, that was you? Okay. I was wondering what those
That's
screams
my
were.
tight end right there, baby.
Yeah. But if you stop with this nonsense and this hogwash, because I know down deep you're a Jet fan, you just can't give up on your football team. Are you now starting to think the Jets are making a run to the playoffs?
As an objective non-Jets fan, I think it's possible. I mean, Zach Wilson is
Jet fan in him still.
Zach Wilson is bad, but he's just not bad enough that the defense and the running game and Garrett Wilson can
keep
win
him
a few
afloat.
games. Can keep, like you said, they barely lost to the Chiefs. They beat the Eagles. Zach Wilson has gotten better every week to the point where he's not losing them games. He's not winning them games.
Yeah.
Because, like, you look at what happened last night.
You have
or
the
yesterday,
pick and it gets you down to the 10-yard line. If they didn't get that ball some yards off the return,
Right.
they probably don't win the game.
Right, and it's not like Zach Wilson threw the winning touchdown pass. He handed the ball to Breece Hall, who ran into the end zone. So it's not like Zach, orchestrated this great drive to win the game. He did nothing to win the game for them. He made a couple decent throws. At the end of the day, the defense is great, and it's so weird how they're good in the first half and they are lights out in the second half against everybody, whether it was the Bills or the Chiefs. They seem to give up plays early, and then second half they make adjustments, and no one can do anything on them. Can they make the playoffs? Possibly, but if you look at the AFC, there's like...
Which is not as strong as what we thought it was going to be.
No, but there's like 10 teams that are 3-3 and better, right? So like of 12 teams, 13 teams, anybody from the AFC can get knocked out.
They have a chance to make the playoffs. And here's the biggest difference. It's not really like that Zach Wilson is that much of a better quarterback from last year to this year. It's Zach Wilson is now someone that has figured out how to conduct himself in an NFL locker room. Where last year, it was the easiest question ever. He had to take blame. He had to take accountability for that loss up against the Patriots where you had the punt return at the end of the game and the Patriots won 10-3, and he failed to do that. It was the easiest question anyone's ever been asked as a quarterback, and all he had to say was, this is on me, this is on my side of the ball, and this is on me as a quarterback, and he didn't do that. And the locker room turned on him. They turned on him. Now, Rodgers was their guy. Rodgers has supported Zach Wilson, and Zach Wilson knows that you toe that line in answering questions, and you take all the accountability now. And I think that has earned him some clout or put him back in the good graces of the locker room and people realize that, hey, he made a mistake last year. Now, I don't still believe in Zach Wilson as a football player, but can you have a team believe in him more than last year and that maybe gets him a few more victories? It's certainly possible. And you look at the schedule, they just went through the toughest part of their schedule. So they have a bye week. They play the Giants. They should beat the Giants. I then think they'll lose to the Chargers. They then should beat the Raiders the week after that. Let's say then they split with Buffalo, so they lose to Buffalo this time around. Let's say they lose to Miami. But then they bounce back. Even if they split Atlanta and Houston. Lose Miami again, but then down the stretch, like I'm trying to be as harsh as possible. You have Washington, Cleveland, and New England. Those are 3 winnable games. And if they win all those games, that puts them at 6 more wins. That gets them to 9 wins. You're in the mix. And I know I gave them the 3 games, but all those other games were like, they could beat Miami one time. That's not out of the realm of possibilities. They could win both Atlanta and Houston. They could also lose both of them too. But with what that defense did yesterday, that defense just shows me they're more than just Sauce Gardner and Quinnen Williams, which is the national feeling of it. Like Bryce Huff is really damn good. Quincy Williams, Quinnen Williams' brother, is really damn good. And the more and more they're still in it, the Aaron Rodgers return talk, whether it's valid or false, is just going to grow exponentially. And there's going to be more whispers and more loud screams, maybe coming outside of Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce's apartment from Michael Samter, because he really shows his Jets love for Aaron Rodgers to maybe make a return this year and do the unthinkable.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Yo, hour number 3 of our radio program. That's right. It is the Zach Gelb Show for 60 more minutes right here on CBS Sports Radio. Could always jump on board, 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227, or check us out, Instagram, Twitter, at Zach Gelb, ZACHGELB. And you could always watch the show via our YouTube live stream. Game tonight, Cowboys and Chargers. I think this is a fascinating game, because these are two teams that don't deserve the benefit of the doubt. These are one of those games where you go, okay, if it ends in a 34-34 tie, I would not be shocked whatsoever, because neither of those teams take advantage of the opportunity at hand. When you look at the Dallas Cowboys, there's a reason why I call them, well, the drama Dallas choking Cowboys. And we've seen the Cowboys now beat up on 3 really bad football teams at the time. Like, the Giants are a bad football team. The Patriots are a bad football team. The Jets are an improving football team, but at the time, that was the at-the-time team. They played the Cowboys. They were a bad football team. So the Cowboys don't have a great win on their schedule yet. The Cowboys don't have a win on that schedule that makes you go, wow, I got to believe in the Dallas Cowboys. They lost to the Cardinals, who the Cardinals are a team, they don't have the talent to win games this year, but they are a gritty team. And for a half, they're in every game that they play. And the Cowboys couldn't beat that team. And then up against the best team they've played so far, they didn't just lose. They got emasculated, and they got ran right off the football field in Santa Clara last Sunday night, which it was absolutely a pathetic performance by the Cowboys. So this is a spot for Dallas where you just look and say, can you go get your best win of the season? Not that anyone's going to jump back on the drama Dallas choking Cowboy bandwagon if you win this game tonight, because there is going to be a feeling of, yeah, but it was the Chargers. And this Chargers team, I don't know if there's been more of a team in the NFL this year than the Chargers. And what I mean by that is the Chargers have all the talent. The Chargers are a team that on paper should be really good, but there's never that belief that the Chargers are going to take that next step. And we've kind of seen it for the last almost 20 years, where if you want to go back to Phillip Rivers, they had a lot of talented teams with Phillip Rivers and Antonio Gates and LaDainian Tomlinson and Sean Merriman. And all those great players that they had with the Chargers, and even when some of those guys left, there was a few years ago where a lot of people thought after the Chargers beat the Ravens in that wild card game where the fans in Baltimore were chanting for Lamar Jackson to get off the field and bring in Joe Flacco, which to John Harbaugh's credit, he didn't listen. And then the next year, Lamar Jackson learned from that and ended up winning a unanimous MVP in his first true year as a starter because John Harbaugh knew that was the future of his team. But the following week, that Chargers team, a lot of people thought they were walking into one Patriot place and they were going to defeat the Patriots. So the Patriots, I know they did go on to win the Super Bowl, but they were not a hot team heading into the postseason, and the Patriots annihilated the Chargers. So for a long time, the Chargers have been a team that have been filled with an abundance of talent, but they just never find a way to have more wins than losses and get the job done where you go, okay, this is a team that I could believe in and this is a team that I could trust in. And through the first 4 games of the season, you know, I say that the Cowboys don't have a good win. The Chargers don't have a good win either. They lose to Miami in a close one. They lose to Tennessee in a close one. And their 2 wins are up against the Vikings and up against the Raiders. And both of those games they should not have won because in the Minnesota game, Brandon Staley was aggressive. It didn't work. And then Kirk Cousins threw an interception right towards the goal line. And the same thing happened the following week where all they had to do was give the ball off to Josh Jacobs, we were talking about with Emmitt Smith, who joined us earlier, at the 3-yard line. And that game goes to overtime. Maybe McDaniels goes for 2 and you win the game right there. And then Aiden O'Connell throws an interception. So you look at the Chargers, they're sitting there at 2-2, and they haven't proved anything. And the Cowboys are sitting at 3-2, and they haven't proved anything either. So tonight, it's which team do you trust more? And the answer is I trust neither, but I'm going to take the underdog in this one. I'm going to take the Chargers. And I know the Chargers have no home field advantage. SoFi Stadium is going to be filled tonight with all those cockroach Cowboys fans. We know they're going to be popping up, they're going to be infiltrated, and they're going to be taking over SoFi Stadium. That will be a Dallas Cowboys home game tonight. But I'm taking the points in this game, and I will take the Chargers to not only, you know, keep it within 2-3 points, whatever the spread is, but I think they're going to win the game outright. Now, the Chargers do not have a good defense. That defense has been Swiss cheese this year. So you would think that Dak Prescott can step up, and you would think that Tony Pollard can step up, and you would think that the Cowboys can actually put up some points tonight. And can they use C.D. Lamb, who's a really talented wide receiver? But I just don't trust the Cowboys offense. And defensively, this is a pride game for the Cowboys defense because I don't think the Cowboys defense is as bad as what they displayed up against the San Francisco 49ers, but they're also not as great as the way that we touted this defense heading into the season when you just get run through like a hot knife through butter with the way that the Cowboys did last week up against the San Francisco 49ers. And the Chargers have talent. You know, I know Mike Williams is out, but you got Keenan Allen. Can Quentin Johnson start to put it together? You got that big tight end too. But most importantly, how many primetime games do we see on a Sunday, a Monday, or a Thursday, and then we're in the next day on CBS Sports Radio, and Austin Eckler is not only getting 1 touchdown, but multiple touchdowns? And the last few weeks, Austin Eckler has been hurt, and now Austin Eckler is expected to make his return for the Los Angeles Chargers. And in the one game he played this year up against Miami, you know, he did a heck of a job where he had over 100 yards, 117 rushing yards, and also had 4 receptions for 47 yards. That's the other thing. Austin Eckler, even with how good of a quarterback I believe Justin Herbert could be, like Justin Herbert, the way I would say it, is the Chargers' best offensive player. But their most valuable player is Austin Eckler. And now, where you talk about preventing a ship from sinking, even though it looked like that ship was going to sink multiple times through the first 4 games, even if it was more on the incompetence of other coaches in Kevin O'Connell, and Josh McDaniels, the Chargers prevented the ship from sinking in the first 4 weeks of the season. Where I'm not saying you should believe in them. I'm not saying you should trust them. I shouldn't give either of these teams the benefit of the doubt. But I know Austin Eckler, assuming he gets through pregame warmups and he plays, and he said earlier in the week, 99% that he was going to play, going back to last week, barring a setback in pregame warmups, I got to think Austin Eckler finds the end zone tonight a few times. And I'm going to, I don't want to say trust, because once again, I don't trust either of these teams. But in a game where I don't really like either team, and I look at the direction where these teams are moving in, and I don't think they're moving anywhere closer to a Super Bowl, if you're going to tell me that the Chargers are the underdog in this team, if you told me the Cowboys were the underdog in this game, I'm taking the underdog here. That's just the way that I'm going to play this game. And I think a lot of people look at this game, Cowboys coming off that embarrassing loss to the 49ers, they'll bounce back and the Chargers will find a way to mess it up. If you look at it, the Chargers are really the Cowboys, just without the following and without the rabid fan base. Both of those teams are a mirror image of one another, and I'm not talking about the construction of the roster, but whenever you think they're going to get the job done, whenever you think they're going to be this great team and they're going to be a Super Bowl contender, they fall flat on their face. Look last year. How many people before the start of last season with the Chargers said, Chiefs no longer have Tyreek Hill, the Chiefs are vulnerable, and this is going to be the Chargers season? Chargers didn't win the division. Chargers made the playoffs. And just when you think, oh, things are starting to move well for the Chargers, they go to Jacksonville, they have an enormous halftime lead. Enormous. And they blow the game in the second half, and you have Trevor Lawrence after the game celebrating at a Waffle House, laughing his and stuffing his face, stuffing his face too. Laughing his face off and stuffing his face at the Waffle House. And you look at the Cowboys, how many Cowboys fans did we hear from in September when they beat the Giants, when they beat the Jets? And it was, oh, here comes the Cowboys. Forget about Philly. Forget about the 49ers. This is the Cowboys' year. They have a defense that looks like the 85 Bears, that looks like the early 2000 Ravens, that looks like the Legion of Boom with the Seattle Seahawks. And then they go up against a legit opponent in the 49ers, and they get smacked around. And they get absolutely dominated. These teams, even though the Cowboys do have a better defense than the Chargers, the way we talk about them, the way that we look at them for the last 15 years is very similar, where they are good teams. They're not great teams. They have a lot of talent. Pollard, Lamb, Dak, Micah Parsons. You look at Austin Eckler, Herbert, Keenan Allen, Bosa, Khalil Mack. Like, there are talented players on both of these teams. But the Cowboys, I don't trust their quarterback in a big game. The Chargers, what's their biggest flaw? It's their head coach. There's no reason to believe in either of these teams. And the Cowboys should make the playoffs. The Chargers, I'm iffy about making the playoffs. And I know the NFC is better than what we thought it was going to be, but inside the AFC, they should be the second. They will be the second best team in the AFC West, but what is that really saying? Raiders stink, even though the Raiders are somehow 3-3, and the Broncos stink. So just being the second best team in the AFC West, it will put you in position to make the playoffs, but doesn't mean it's a lock that you make the playoffs. Because let's just say the Dolphins win the AFC East. Let's say the Bengals recover and win the AFC North. In the South, it's Jacksonville, and in the West, it's Kansas City. Well, the Bills are still making the playoffs. Ravens? Do you want to throw them in there? It's like, can the Texans be a player? Can the Browns be a player? Can the Steelers be a player? So there's a grouping of teams where I would probably give more trust if the Bengals win the division and the Dolphins win the division to the Bills and the Ravens. And then you're fighting for one spot. And some years you go 10-7, you get in. And the tiebreakers go your way. Other years, you may be 10-7 or 9-8, and the tiebreakers don't go your way. So the Cowboys are a playoff team, without a doubt. But when they get in the postseason, they're not a team that I'm expecting anything other than you win one game and then you go home divisional weekend. For the Chargers, there's legitimate uncertainty if they're going to make the playoffs. So in a game like this tonight, where there's a lot of talent on both these teams, but neither of these teams, until the Cowboys change quarterbacks and get a great quarterback, and until the Chargers change coaches and bring in a great head football coach, am I going to believe that they advance the ball forward and they move the ball forward as an organization and take that next step to greatness? And that's why they're stuck on good organizations and good teams, but never a team that's going to get to a Super Bowl or even let alone a conference title game with either of these squads, with the way that they're just currently managed. And that's why they're both stuck on good, not great teams. So I said it going back to last week, and I thought it once the dust settled, whoever the underdog is in this game, that's who I'm going to take. And as we sit here on a Monday, and I'll give you a live line of this game right now, well, it's actually gone down a little bit, but the Cowboys are still a 1.5 favorite. So at that rate, just go the money line on the Chargers plus the points. Maybe you dabble in a little anytime touchdown parlay, because I think there's going to be points tonight. I do. I think this is going to be a fun game. I think this is going to be a explosive game with both of these offenses. You know, there's going to be some bad moments, but they're going to be able to put up points tonight. And in a game where I think most people are kind of thinking the Cowboys win, the Chargers are going to find the way to get the job done. Maybe you want to parlay an Austin Eckler touchdown and a CeeDee Lamb touchdown and just take the two best offensive players, or the two most players that you frequently get in the end zone for both teams, in Eckler and CeeDee Lamb. So I like the Chargers tonight. Stu, I know that you are an expert inside the AFC West and talking about the Chargers charging a lot. You've seen that with your own two eyes many times. Who do you like to end the game, Cowboys and Chargers?
Yeah, I like the Cowboys. I think the Chargers will charge Staley in the primetime spot, typically Brandon Staley's. So I think it's going to be a Cowboys win.
Well, you have the Cowboys cowboying and the Chargers charging tonight.
Something's got to give.
You know what?
Maybe a tie.
We should bet the tie. We really 34-34 tie. We all walk in tomorrow with like $1 million or something like that, because the odds are crazy. No one ever expects a tie. Samter, are you with Stu or are you with myself here? I'm taking the Chargers. Stu is taking the Cowboys. You go with whom tonight?
I'm going Cowboys.
How about them Cowboys?
How about them Cowboys?
Ugh.
Yeah, I don't believe in either team. It's not like I'm picking the Cowboys.
This is a whole game.
Yeah. No, but here's the thing. It's going to be I think it's going to be a super interesting game. High scoring, right? You can get a lot of offense, a lot of points. It's going to be a fun game to watch.
Put it this way.
I just don't believe in either of these teams to, like, make the plays when it matters. So I think someone's going to fall on their face at some point late in the fourth quarter. So if you need one player to give you, like, 15 points in fantasy football tonight and you're down, this is like an ideal game for you. 100%. Because you're getting a ton of points in this game, I think. Even though the Cowboys defense is a lot better than the Chargers defense, like you said, even though I don't trust Dak Prescott, and the Chargers, until Brendan Staley gets out of there, I'll never trust them. It does feel as if we'll have a lot of points in this one. So if we get in the low 30s, mid 30s tonight, that type of game, and it's back and forth fireworks, it should be a good one. But I'm telling you, everyone's going to pick the Cowboys. All those pregame shows, it's going to be Cowboys, 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 Cowboys. I'm going to take the Chargers in this one. Because it's, once again, when you don't trust either teams, I always take the dog. All righty, Zach Gelb Show, CBS Sports Radio. We'll come on back with a little no-huddle offense.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. 3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
And a team that was in the Super Bowl a year ago but didn't get back to the Super Bowl this year not only went into your house, they went into your house, they put their asses on your couch, they took everything out of your fridge, they made steaks in your house, devoured the steaks, then slept with your wife, and then the next morning just rolled out of town and left your house a mess. That's what the Cincinnati Bengals did to the Buffalo Bills.
Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Alrighty, Zach Gelb here with you on CBS Sports Radio. Stream the NFL on Westwood One for free. Sponsored by AutoZone all season long. You can listen to every Westwood One broadcast of the NFL live on the NFL app by asking Alexa to open Westwood One Sports or on the Odyssey app. Get in the zone, AutoZone. The free AutoZone Fix Finder service can help you find a fix for free. Get in the zone, AutoZone. Restrictions apply. Let's get to a no-huddle offense.
Touchdowns, sacks, upsets, and last-minute heroics. Another NFL Sunday is in the books, and we've got you covered with the biggest plays and sound bites from another wild week in the National Football League. It's time for No Huddle Offense on the Zach Gelb Show.
No Sauce Gardner, no DJ Reed, no problem for Gang Green and the Jets. Jets. They hand the Eagles their first loss of the season, and a play that set up the eventual winning touchdown was Tony Adams picking off an ill-advised pass by Jalen Hurts late in the fourth quarter in a 14-12 game. This was the third interception for Hurts in the game and the fourth turnover by the Eagles offense.
Back to throw is Hurts. Looks left, throws left. It's intercepted. Picked off. Running right, Tony Adams. He's inside the 25. Breaks a tackle. Down to the 10-yard line. Unbelievable. The Jet defense celebrating their fourth takeaway.
That's Bob Wischusen on the Jets Radio Network. So here's the question that I have from this one. If the Jets had Aaron Rodgers, would they right now be the favorite in the AFC? And my answer to that would be yes. Because I look around the AFC right now, the Dolphins are a juggernaut offensively. And they need Jalen Phillips back to make that defense be really good. And we'll see when Phillips gets back, because I think he could be a game wrecker for the Dolphins. But the Jets have a better defense than the Miami Dolphins. And Aaron Rodgers, even though Tua's playing awesome, is a better quarterback than Tua Tagovailoa. Sure, you'd rather have Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle compared to Garrett Wilson, even though he's a really good young wide receiver, Alan Lazard, and then Breece Hall as your running back. But I do think the Jets, with Rodgers healthy, can be better than the Miami Dolphins. The Bills have been very unimpressive. Where they're 4-2, and last night they were lucky that they didn't lose and that game be 3-3. The Bills, whenever you start to think they're just about to click, like they blew out the Miami Dolphins and they lose to Jacksonville and London, and they almost lost to the Giants, who were starting Tyrod Taylor. In the AFC West, I get it. Kansas City's 5-1. But if the Jets had Rodgers, they would have won that game up against the Kansas City Chiefs. It was 23-20. And then no one you really love in the AFC North right now. In the AFC South, Jaguars are a good team, but I don't think they're a great team this year. I don't believe it's far-fetched to say that if Aaron Rodgers was on the Jets right now and playing for the Jets right now, who the Jets are 3-3, that this Jet team would be the favorite in the AFC. And you look around, and if you kind of want to say, no, Zach, I disagree with that, look at the Jets' 3 losses. All right, they got blown out against the Cowboys. They would have won the game up against the Patriots. And I think if Rodgers is there, they would have beat the Kansas City Chiefs. All right, we'll keep it moving. Let's go Commanders and Falcons. Here's Jamin Davis getting the interception of Desmond Ridder. This is Ridder's third interception. This was at 24-16. This is Falcons Radio.
Empty backfield for Ridder. Gets the step. Washington brings 4. Steps up, throws. That was picked off by Jamin Davis. Unbelievable. Jamin Davis jumped around. Third pick of the half. And Washington is going to win in Atlanta.
My take from this game, Arthur Smith did the worst coaching job of the weekend. And I was watching the entirety of that game here on Ion Football. I had it up on the iPad. And I don't understand what Arthur Smith is trying to do. Arthur Smith has a quarterback who, at best, you're trying to make him be a game manager. You have Bijan Robinson, you have Tyler Algier, you got Kyle Pitts, and you got Drake London. You have playmakers, but you don't have a great quarterback. So, run the ball. Keep it simple, stupid. And he's trying to make Desmond Ridder the focal point of this offense, which is nonsense to me. They threw the ball yesterday with Desmond Ridder 47 times. Tyler Algier only had 13 carries in the game. Bijan Robinson only had 13 carries in the game. So that's the first problem I have, is the approach by Arthur Smith, who's supposed to be the savvy offensive mind. He's throwing the ball too damn much with Desmond Ridder. Also, you're 3rd and goal at the 2. 3rd and goal at the 2. The play clock is winding down. You had 3 timeouts. I can't trust a young quarterback in Desmond Ridder, as easy as it seems, to call a timeout there. He takes a delay a game. How are you as a coach, if you're managing the game, you don't use one of your timeouts there? Inexcusable. That pushes them back, and they end up throwing an interception. They got what they deserved. And also, they were down 14. I know the analytical crew will tell me after you get the touchdown, you go for 2. I don't really agree with that. And I think a lot of it is about momentum. Don't ruin the momentum. They go for 2. They run a fade, I believe it was to Drake London, in the left end zone. They end up getting a flag, so they get a replay of it. And they move the ball to the 1-yard line. How do they not hand the ball off to Bijan Robinson? You just drafted a running back 8th overall. And they didn't hand the ball off to Bijan Robinson. Instead, they go to Tyler Algier, and they get stuffed, and the 2-point conversion was no good. Arthur Smith, in a division that is winnable, is right now costing the Atlanta Falcons with his jackassery approach on the offensive side of the ball. Thank you very much. 49ers and the Browns. Look like the 49ers are going to find a way to pull one out against the Brownies. Here we go, Brownies. Here we go. No Deshaun Watson in the game. No problem. T for Temple, PJ Walker. Like, he didn't play this great game, but, he did a good enough job here. And he found a way to outduel Brock Purdy. But the 49ers, even with all the injuries, still moved the ball down the field. They had a chance to make a game-winning field goal with Jake Moody, who I believe they drafted in the 3rd round. And you thought this was a layup field goal, a gimme field goal, even in the bad conditions, how good of a kicker Moody was going back to his days at Michigan. And the kick was no good. Let's listen up to Browns radio.
Wishnowski kneels at the 31 to give the Niners the lead. Snap is down. The kick is up. The kick is no good! It's no good! And the Browns will beat the 49ers 19-17.
So that's a game where today you look at the 49ers and you go, really? Now, I know I like to give crap to 49ers fans. They're still a great football team. They're still going to be there right there at the end of the season. But one thing we could do, in the first time in Brock Purdy's career where he starts a game and finishes a game and it results in a loss, is we could put an end to this 1 week, 2 week kind of push that Brock Purdy should be an MVP candidate. And I know 49ers fans loved to bring it up a few weeks ago when I said, he's a system quarterback right now. Maybe one day he could turn into a franchise quarterback. But you look at that system that Kyle Shanahan has. Kyle Shanahan is a brilliant offensive mind. He has a great offensive line starting with Trent Williams. You have Christian McCaffrey. You have Deebo Samuel. You got Brandon Ayuk. You got Kittle as well. Notice what happens when you lose McCaffrey. Notice what happens when you lose Deebo Samuel. Brock Purdy doesn't have these magnificent stat numbers. Brock Purdy was a quarterback yesterday. 125 yards in the year of 2023 doesn't cut it. A touchdown and a pick. So the MVP of the 49ers is not Brock Purdy. It's Christian McCaffrey. It's Run CMC, clearly. But there were some 49ers fans that were trying to make that push for Brock Purdy and got annoyed at everyone that said he's a system quarterback. And I don't think it's the worst thing in the world if you're winning games and you are a system quarterback. If you win a Super Bowl and you're a system quarterback, no one's going to be annoyed at that. No one's going to say, I wish we won a Super Bowl with a quarterback that was elite quarterback in the league, not someone that's just a system quarterback. But let's put an end and let's pour one out to the Brock Purdy MVP discussion after yesterday. Patriots and Raiders. Another loss for the Patriots. They stink. The Raiders, Stu, your Raiders are 3-3. There's always records that we look at and we go, how the heck does that happen? How is that team not as bad as the way that they look on a football field? And here are your Raiders at 3-3 on a scale of 1 to 10. Where's the confidence level with the Raiders?
I'd say a 4. I don't think they're a playoff team. They're better than I thought, but they've also beaten the Patriots, Broncos, and Packers. So I don't know.
There's some bad opponents.
Yeah, we'll see when they have a stretch of, I think, Kansas City twice.
But what they're doing right now is they're putting lipstick on a pig.
Yeah, they have Kansas City twice, the Dolphins, and the Chargers in a 5-week span. So that's when we'll see some losses pile up.
I'll be like Oprah Winfrey right now during Christmas time. You get a loss, you get a loss, you get a loss, you get a loss with some of those opponents. But the Patriots right now are just taking L's left and right. Here is Mac Jones getting sacked in the end zone for a safety. I think they tried to utilize Mike Gesicki blocking Max Crosby, which you never use a tight end to block one of the best pass rushers in the NFL. And Mike Gesicki, I heard he was a horrible blocker coming over from the Dolphins. You knew he was a decent pass-catching tight end. I can't even say he tried to block Max Crosby. As someone that was an offensive lineman, That is offensive to say that Mike Gesicki even attempted to block Max Crosby. Here is Mac Jones getting sacked in the end zone for the safety.
How about we finish this off with a safety, shall we? Anything but a deep ball. Snap, back to pass. Pressure again off the edge. And he's served for the safety. Crosby and Nichols, they met in the end zone. They squished into the turf, and the Raiders defense has that safety.
Yeah, I'm thrilled with this result. I'm a tanking guy now. For 20 years, I was in the penthouse. Now I'm in the outhouse. Now I know what it's like to be a regular football fan, where I just want my team to be competitive. I just want my team to make me think there's a shot they're going to win the game, and then I want to see them lose the game. And that's what happened yesterday. Because the Patriots, after Tom Brady, they made the playoffs one year, but for the most part, they've been like anywhere between a 7 to a 10-win team. That's in the worst place that you could be, where you have no direction, you have no hope, you know you're not a good team. Forget about being a great team or a Super Bowl team. At best, you're just a team that can maybe, at best, make a wild card and then get blasted by the Bills like you did a few years ago. So I want to tear this thing down. We'll see if Belichick comes back. I'm not someone that's demanding to fire Bill, but I want the number 1 overall pick in the draft, and then hopefully Bill Belichick doesn't do what he did with Mac Jones and say, yeah, we're going to have a defensive guy and a special teams guy run the offense, and then we're never going to get the quarterback, some offensive players. So somehow the Raiders are 3-3. I love that the Patriots right now only have 1 win. I wish they had no wins on the season. I don't want to see them win another game for the rest of the year because I think the Patriots having a terrible season will actually end up being a good thing because you could go get a big-time playmaker in the draft. Saints at the Texans. Let's hear C.J. Stroud chuck up a 6-yard touchdown pass to Robert Woods. This made it 17-7, Texans over the Saints.
3rd and goal at the 6. CJ gets the snap, throws over the middle, caught for a touchdown by Robert Woods. They cash in.
What a throw. The timing is what made the throw possible.
What a quarterback. This is a rookie doing this.
C.J. Stroud, through his first 6 games of his NFL career, completed almost 60% of his passes, 1,660 passing yards, 9 touchdowns, and only 1 interception. That came yesterday against the New Orleans Saints. But the Texans get the win. The Texans are now 3-3. And you look at the Houston Texans and you just say, man, they're finally moving in the right direction. That this was a team for the last 2 years. Caserio was trying to build something, but you never believed in them, and you had no reason to believe because David Culley was their coach and Lovie Smith was their head coach. You knew that wasn't going to be the guy that when they tried to move this thing forward, that's who they were going to rock and roll with. You bring in DeMeco Ryans, who played for the Texans and is beloved in that organization and with that fan base and with that franchise. And then not only did you go get C.J. Stroud with the 2nd overall pick, but you said, okay, bleep it, let's go for it. Let's go get Will Anderson Jr. We'll see what type of player Will Anderson Jr. develops to. But it was finally a mentality in that organization that we're moving this thing forward. And ultimately, you have to hit on the players. But right now, it looks like they hit on the coach, and it looks like they hit on the quarterback as well. And through the first 6 weeks of the season, DeMeco Ryans may be the most impressive coach in the NFL. And right now would be my vote to win Coach of the Year. Now, that doesn't mean he's going to get it. That doesn't mean he's going to win it because I don't think the Texans are going to the playoffs, and I think you need to get to the playoffs to win Coach of the Year. But you look around, like Mike McDaniel, definitely in that conversation. Dan Campbell, definitely in that conversation. Robert Saleh, the Jets somehow make the playoffs, definitely in that conversation. But DeMeco Ryans with not a lot of great talent and getting that team to be 3-3 and bringing belief back and hope back to the Texans organization is a pretty impressive sign from the Texans rookie head coach. And not everyone makes a great transition from a coordinator to a head coach. First 6 games, it's been flawless for the most part with the Houston Texans. That's a No Huddle Offense. This is Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. We will take a break. We'll come on back. There's a ton of pressure on Deshaun Watson. And also, how does the Brock Bowers injury change the way we view Georgia? We'll approach those 2 questions when we come on back. One more segment to play. We'll be back in 5 minutes, but let's get the latest CBS Sports Radio update in first with the Act Man, Rich Ackerman.
CBS Sports Radio. Sports Flash.
Well, the Rangers remain red hot. The Astros are struggling to start this league championship series where they've been now for 7 straight years. But the Rangers, after winning Game 1 by shutting out Houston, scored 4 in the top of the first before even an out was recorded. They now lead at 5-1 in the bottom of the third after Yordan Alvarez got the Astros on the board in the second with a solo blast of 420 feet. Jonah Heim answered that one with a solo home run of his own. And again, bottom of the third, Rangers lead it by a score of 5-1. Max Scherzer will return to the mound for Game 3. He has been out since September 11th with a shoulder issue, but is deemed well enough to go and will start Game 3. Game 1 of the National League Championship Series takes place tonight in Philadelphia between the Phillies and the Diamondbacks. Deebo Samuel day-to-day with a shoulder injury, while Lions running back David Montgomery expected to miss some time with a ribcage injury. Bears quarterback Justin Fields has a dislocated thumb and is doubtful for this weekend. I'm Rich Ackerman.
CBS Sports Radio is everywhere, Perloff, at home, in your car, and of course on your phone and tablet.
Maggie, you can find us on your local affiliate, Sirius XM Channel 158, or the free Odyssey app.
CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. 1 minute remaining. Five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Hey, this is Howie. And this is Nick from the Backstreet Boys. And you're listening to the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. And guess what? Zach is back. All right.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
Oh my God, we're back again.
It is time to ask our Ask the Pros question of the day, and it's brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Red in Georgia says, Zach, how does the Brock Bowers injury impact Georgia's chances of winning another national championship? You could submit a question by tweeting at CBS Sports Radio or at Zach Gelb, ZACHGELB, using the hashtag Ask the Pros. Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get guaranteed low prices and excellent customer service from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts. So, you're going to have Brock Bowers out a bare minimum of 4 weeks. It's expected 4 to 6 weeks with the surgery that he needs. He's having a tightrope surgery on his injured ankle. The school announced that he's expected to miss 4 to 6 weeks. Brock Bowers, who is one of the best players in college football and one of the more explosive players in college football, in my opinion, the most entertaining non-quarterback in college football. So if he's out anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks, where let's just say it's the maximum of that, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that puts you back, him returning around Thanksgiving weekend if there's no hiccups, if there's no roadblocks or anything from the surgery that goes wrong, and it's just a straight-through recovery. So you don't need him back on the field Thanksgiving weekend for Georgia Tech, but then the next week you may need him in the SEC championship game. Florida's schedule, though, I mean, Georgia's schedule, it's easy peasy. You play Florida, you have Missouri, you have Ole Miss, you get Tennessee, you get Georgia Tech. So sure, it picks up in intensity of your opponents, but up until this point, their best opponent was Kentucky, and they waxed them 51-13. Now, when they played Auburn the week before that, they did a heck of a job, and Bowers pretty much single-handedly won them that game up against Auburn, where they just survived 27-20. So even if Georgia loses one game in the regular season, and let's say Bowers isn't ready to come back for the SEC title game, I still expect Georgia to win the SEC. And if you're a one-loss SEC champ, you're still going to get in the college football playoff. But here's what I start to wonder. Does Brock Bowers feel like he has to return? Because how many times have we seen a player get hurt and they've like even guys that haven't even accomplished as much as Brock Bowers has. But remember Bosa at Ohio State. Remember the injury last year with Jackson Smith and Jigba. When you've already won and you've already been kind of touted that guy and you're supposed to be the first tight end off the board, a top 10 pick in the draft, and you're going to get your NIL money either way. It's not as if you need to play to get that NIL money. I don't really see the incentive, Samter, for Brock Bowers to play. Now, I respect the competitive spirit if he says, I owe it to my teammates, I owe it to my brothers, and I want to play. And if he does that, I'm the first one to say, round of applause. I got no problem with that. But if I'm advising Brock Bowers, like if I was, a soon-to-be agent of Brock Bowers or a family member of Brock Bowers, ultimately it's his decision. But I would kind of say, you've already made some good money probably through NIL at Georgia. You've already won. They've won back-to-back national championships. You are that guy that is going to be the first tight end picked in the draft. You're supposed to be a top 10 pick. Do you really need to come on back? Where I would be shocked if he returns for the SEC championship game. But then a few weeks later, I think it's New Year's Day is when the semifinals are this year. If enough time goes by, but do you want to maybe open yourself up to get injured again before in a few months you're getting ready to start your NFL career? So that's the part to me where if you're a Georgia fan, it's two questions. When does he come back? If you tell me it's 4 to 6 weeks where he's eligible to come back, sure, you could still go win a national championship game, even though now you're vulnerable because you just lost your best player. But it's also, will he want to come back? And that's the big question I have.
I think the NIL thing changes everything. Like 10 years ago, I would have said, heck no, sit out the rest of the year. Doesn't matter what's going on and get your money in the NFL draft. But now you're making a little bit of money. Mm-hmm. Tight ends can play a little bit longer, right? So if let's say he gets hurt again and he drops a little bit in the draft, he still has a second and third contract he can get to. It's not like a running back who needs to get that first or second contract. So he has
And he's going
options.
to the top 10 picks either way. Even if he gets hurt again in an SEC championship game, he's coming back.
You're telling me a tight end going top 10 who gets injured twice in his last season? No way.
Two things. One, the tight end has become such an enormous part of the passing game now, and they're kind of basically just wide receivers. Great tight ends like Gronkowski. That's the ideal tight end because he was dominant in the blocking game and then an insane person in the pass catching game. But like Mark Stoops, who was on with us a few weeks ago and knows Gronk very well, he's like, I'm not even comparing him to Rob Gronkowski because he even said in one of his press conferences earlier that week he's never seen anyone like a Brock Bowers. So with that upside, I still think he'd be a top 10 pick either way. But with all that being said, it's just like, I don't know if it, like outside of just the competitive spirit of it and wanting to win a third national championship at Georgia, I don't think it makes sense. Like you got injured, it stinks. I would have no problem if he elects to sit out. I will never lambaste a college athlete that says, I'm going to sit out and get focused on my NFL future, especially when he's given so much already to the university.
And the other part also is if he misses the rest of the season and is available for the playoffs, how often do we see a guy who comes back after an injury and his first or second game back, knocked the rust off, he's not quite there, and probably increases the chances of him getting hurt again. So, like, if he gets back and he has a chance to play in, like, kind of a tune-up game, even the SEC title game, just to kind of get himself back.
There's really no benefit for him individually.
No,
outside of personal
other than
pride.
The three-peat. Now, can Georgia three-peat without him? Probably.
They
but,
still
man,
can.
It makes it much harder.
They still can, but they're vulnerable because Michigan is a well-rounded football team. Look what Washington did this past weekend. Whoever survives out of that Pac-12, this is a year in college football where the Bowers injury, before people were saying it's open, now it's even more open because of how dominant he is, and he's clearly Georgia's best player. Let's go to Marvin in Sacramento, who wants to chime in on Tyrod Taylor for a second. Marvin, go ahead.
Yeah, I watched that game yesterday. I watch all the Giant games, being a lifelong Giant fan. Yesterday was the first time this year that the offense looked like a pro offense. I'm not saying Tyrod Taylor is great and he's the next best thing to the zipper. That's not what I'm saying. But they haven't looked this decent this whole year.
Did they really even look decent?
Yeah, they looked decent simply because Tyrod Taylor, he was running for his life, but he was making passes. Jones doesn't even get a chance to make a pass downfield. Bottom line is, the Giants need to think in terms about getting one of these top quarterbacks coming out.
For sure with that. And Marvin, I got to let you run because I'm up against it, but for sure. If you're picking in the top 10, you got to consider taking a quarterback because Daniel Jones only has a ceiling of being good. He doesn't have a ceiling of being great. But let's settle down here that this is the first time the Giants offense looked decent. I'll remind you, they only put up 9 points yesterday. And Tyrod Taylor made an inexcusable mistake at the end of the first half. He was fine. But I don't want to start getting all crazy and then say that, that was an indictment of Daniel Jones yesterday with him not being on the field. I don't love Daniel Jones. They paid Daniel Jones. They could easily get out of that deal after 2 years. But if they have a top 10 pick and they fall in love with the quarterback, and that's the key, you got to fall in love with the quarterback, then you got to draft that quarterback. Real quickly, Schefter said Deshaun Watson was dealing with the deep rotator cuff contusion that has made it difficult for him to drive the football when he throws, but there is a belief that the Browns QB could be ready to play as soon as next Sunday against the Colts. There's a lot of pressure on Watson. They traded all those picks for him. They guaranteed him all that money. And then yesterday, with him not on the field, they beat arguably the best team in football or one of the best teams in football. When Watson comes back, he better be ready to go because Stefanski did a good job with that team yesterday. And ultimately, this is going to Stefanski up against Watson. If it does not work out, and Stefanski will lose his job. But Watson's got to start stepping up and delivering because his team found a way to get the job done yesterday without him. So all eyes will be turned to Deshaun Watson when he comes on back. Good show today. I'd like to thank Emmitt Smith for stopping by in the studio. I'd like to thank all of you in the YouTube chat, also on the phones and listening to us however you do so. Big thanks to Stu. Big thanks to Santa. We'll talk to you again tomorrow, everybody, at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. We out. Bye-bye. Peace.